The hidden statue found in the original Abyss Empire's vice capital turned out to be none other than the envoy of death, Jiasung Saja. This was the first time Khan had met someone directly related to God of Darkness ever since he entered Vantria more than 6 years ago. "You know of me, sir?" asked Khan as the massive statue, with its ashen-white face and black lips, stared at him. The expressionless and lifeless entity that oozed the aura of death stared with its cold and piercing gaze, sending shivers down Khan's spine as it responded. "How can I not? You're the center of the chatter in the realm of deities. Recently, we found that your subordinates created using the synthesis divine ability have become apostles of a few of them. Even Demeter, who is at odds with my liege, the god of darkness, has chosen one of them as her apostle recently. Someone like me, who is mostly busy guiding souls to the underworld, couldn't escape those gossips either," iterated the statue. "But the biggest surprise was that even Yama, my colleague, has taken one of them as his apostle. This is the first time that has happened ever since we became deities," revealed Jiasung Saja. "And my subordinates are just lucky to have been graced by their magnanimity," said Khan as he slightly bowed with his entire upper body, following the traditional Korean way of showing respect. "Lucky my foot. Cravel tells me that you had prepared for all this beforehand so that in this new timeline, things would go in your favor," said the envoy with a bemused tone. "Well, the one who did isn't here anymore," replied Khan. Suddenly, the massive stone eyebrows on the statue creaked, and the very next moment, "Ha ha ha!" the statue let out a thunderous laugh that sent shockwaves through the whole cave-like settlement. "Interesting. Things will be chaotic, it seems," responded the statue. "Is this your true form?" asked Khan. "No, while I do look like a human in reality, the statue you see is just a medium I can temporarily possess. It was created as a failsafe in case the Abyss Empire or the cult of Darkborn no longer exists, so that the next hero of darkness can find the abyssal altar through me. And the fact that you are here after what happened 300 years ago seems like the backup plan was useful after all," responded the envoy. "May I ask what kind of relationship you have with Yama, the king of hell?" asked Khan out of curiosity. "I guide the souls to the underworld, which you people call hell. Then Yama decides whether they deserve reincarnation or not. If yes, then he decides what will they become in their next life. A plant, a fish, or just one of the predominant species in the world. And if not, they all get sent to the eternal abyss," explained the deity. "Eternal abyss? The realm where God of Darkness resides?" asked Khan. "Yes, it is a domain where the most cruel, vicious beings that have taken millions of lives go. Sometimes, the death count is so high that the souls do not deserve any form of reincarnation at all, and their existences must be erased completely. However, even with the soul obliterated, there are still minor remnants that can instead return to the real world and possess other beings, causing an unnatural phenomenon such as wraiths or ghouls. Some can even cause another worldwide carnage given how strong their souls were in the original life. Only the God of Darkness can stop them from ever entering the real world and stop the cycle of reincarnation completely. Meanwhile, he punishes them with an eternity of solace and suffering in an escapable realm where their souls are permanently sealed. Compared to that, the torture and pain a lot of sinners feel in hell can be considered a gruesome but forgettable experience," explained Jiasung Saja. "Whether one gets tortured for decades or centuries, or gets reincarnated right away, depends on the karma they've accumulated throughout their life. I just gather millions of such beings and lead them to the underworld," iterated the envoy of death sternly. "Then what about heaven?" asked Khan with a curious countenance. "Ha! There is no such thing as heaven. We only have the realm of divinity, where some creatures and those who manage to become a deity can reside after the ascension. And even there, everyone has their own realm where they project and design it as per their will. That concept of heaven is just what some sentient species have created to make themselves feel hopeful. Though it's not true, even someone like me and Yama would prefer to have people believe in it. It just saves us a lot of work," explained the envoy. "I see. Thank you for the answers," said Khan in an appreciative tone. Jiasung Saja's gaze then turned to Morrigan. You must be the new high priestess. He spoke in an authoritative tone. Yes, great envoy. It is my honor to serve the god of darkness, replied Morrigan as she kneeled in front of the statue. Good thing that we have at least a few competent people this time. He spoke, and then his sight locked on Argo's. There is an oddly familiar yet distinct aura about you. Have we ever met before, child? Asked the envoy. No, I believe not. I'm too young to know someone of your great legend. I'm currently acting as the guardian for the hero of darkness and the new representative of the cult of Darkborn. Although I myself do not serve the god of darkness, it was the only way for me to deter the other empires from outright hunting and killing Khan. Explained the vampire sovereign in a respectful tone. For some reason it does feel like we've met before. Or maybe we did while I was leading your soul to the underworld in your past life. Some of the powerful beings in the past have had a distinct aura to their souls, just like you. Shame, even if we did meet, you wouldn't remember it after entering the cycle of reincarnation since your memories are wiped out. Elaborated the envoy, adding new information to how the underworld worked. Could be. I hope you will look upon me favorably when I die in this life, said Argos jokingly. I shall remember your aura. Hopefully the world survives. Or I will be bored since I won't have a job anymore, responded Jiasung Saja casually. Rumble. Rumble. The 100-meter-tall statue suddenly started shrinking, and in 10 seconds, a small 10-centimeter replica of the envoy of death was left behind. The statue flew towards Khan, and a purple thread of netherworld energy entered Khan's heart, connecting itself to his soul. It is indeed a very strong soul. I see that you once shared 1/10 of your soul with someone. Who is this? Suddenly, the statue trembled in disbelief. Is this the divine weapon of the hero of fire? Asked the envoy of death. Swoosh! Quickly returned to the statue after finding the existence of Amaterasu. Why do you have this one? Inquired the envoy. Didn't you know that I killed the hero of fire and absorbed his divine key? Asked Khan in return. Oh, so that's how it happened. Well, I usually don't mingle much with others. You can consider me a bit of a workaholic by nature. After I became a demigod, it was this nature of mine that made the god of darkness accept me under his wing. He recently did the same for Cravel too, I believe. Revealed Jiasung Saja. One after another, like a talkative person, he was revealing a lot of information. Khan could tell that Jiasung Saja was no different than Elric Johnson, workaholic and introverted. But once people like them got someone to talk to, they just end up revealing too much since their sense of boundaries are a bit blurred. By no means such a person be considered a blabbermouth, just that these kinds of people hold too many thoughts in their minds and unintentionally end up speaking more than they should once they get a chance. The envoy of death was no different than that colleague who gets the job done but barely talks with anyone in the office. But once you get to know them and enter their very small inner circle, they trust you and share a lot of stuff with you subconsciously. Any 9-to-5 job office employee could relate to these kinds of people. In a way, Khan welcomed this behavior because he was also learning a lot about the modus operandi of Hell, the god of darkness, and the so-called realm of divinity. Who knew what interesting information he would learn soon, just because the envoy of death was an introvert loner just like him from the first life. All right, let's not fret here for long. We should leave since my part here is done, said Jiasung Saja, and the small statue summoned a Joseon-era-style pitch-black sword. Let's go to the abyssal altar of darkness. Khan then carried the small statue with him back to the surface while Morrigan and Argos followed quietly. For some reason, the vampire king turned silent, not engaging in any kind of talks with Jiasung Saja as if he was trying to avoid further conversation. Morrigan, the high priestess of the cult of Darkborn, was stealing glances at the statue, with vehement countenance and eyes filled with respect. What do we have here? Asked the envoy of death as soon as they reached the tablet of Arcana and saw Vildred standing on guard. A royal dragon and the soul of the former peak saint tied to one of the relics of demigods? You have quite the friend circle here, boy, he said nonchalantly. This one, I don't know how he made it, but he definitely had help from various species while forging it, said Jiasung Saja. You know about the Tablet of Arcana? Asked Khan, slightly baffled. Yes, it was left by one of the deities that serve the god of time himself. But if I remember correctly, he no longer exists. Revealed the envoy. What? A deity can die? Asked Khan, his expression filled with bewilderment. No, not death. He has been removed from the existence and the history of the world itself. You need the transcendental power of a god to truly remove someone from the existence of Vantria, so that they may never be born again even after billions of years, or even in a different world created by Vantria. But when it happens, the world itself forgets about their existence. Pretty sure not even God of Time remembers their name or appearance. Just that they once existed. Elaborated the envoy of death. So there is death beyond death? Asked Khan curiously. Yes, the only being who has also achieved this true death, while retaining their memories, powers and existence, is none other than God of Darkness himself. Revealed Jiasung Saja. What? He is truly dead but also still exists? Asked Khan, shocked beyond belief. Why are you so surprised? Let me ask you this then. What is the name of the God of Darkness? Asked the envoy of death. I do not know. He never told me, and until now, I never found it since most of the empires I've been to chose to erase his history. Iterated Khan. The young succubus girl is the high priestess of none other than the cult of Darkborn, his official religious institution. Ask her, said the Seojung Saja playfully. Khan then looked around, and his eyes locked with Morrigan, expecting an answer. I don't know. All the records about the name of God of Darkness suddenly vanished right after the events of 300 years ago. Even those who knew it before have forgotten it. Not just the living but even recorded footage stored using magical artifacts had it erased from them. The books that used to contain our mighty God's name also have that information retconned and the subject changed. From what I know, even the high priestesses during that era also forgot it one day. Explained Morrigan. It was then, the envoy of death spoke with a mischievous tone. Not just the mortals. I can bet my immortal life when I say this. Even the gods and goddesses don't remember his name anymore. And that includes the god of time and god of space as well. Stated the envoy of death proudly. If so, why care so much about not revealing his name to the world even after so long? Asked Khan. It is simple. The other gods and goddesses joined hands together after what happened with the 8th hero of darkness. Some did it out of rage and some did it unwillingly. They destroyed the empire that served him and made things difficult for your summoning. So afterward, he chose to erase his name from the world, just to remind others what he is capable of. To gods, this power is unfathomable. Not because only he can do it, but it is a detrimental reminder that he could do it to them as well. Revealed the small statue gleefully. At this moment, the envoy of death was just flexing how badass and powerful his boss was to these newbies. So you mean to say that God of Darkness is the only one who can truly kill other gods? Asked Khan, stunned on the spot. Yes, of course, but it won't come without a price. Also, he wishes to preserve the balance of the world just like the God of life and the God of nature. And the day he will choose to reveal his name again to the world will be the day of his rise again in the hearts of all the living beings of Vantria. Think about it, similar to making a grand and soul-stirring entrance, said the envoy with an ecstatic tone. Khan was both perplexed and a bit terrified by the thought of it. If all the living beings suddenly remembered the God of Darkness name at the same time, imagine what great hysteria it would cause all over the world. That is a kind of impact not even most gods could make with their powers. It feels as if he planned for the day it happens. Must also be prepared for a historical event that could happen soon, said Khan. You're right. He will make a grand entrance that some will rejoice but many will dread for the rest of their lives. Ha ha ha, said the Seojung Saja with a sinister tone. After the workaholic deity spouted out a few more facts and revelations, Khan's solo journey resumed. However, this time, there were no misdirections or any unwanted interactions for some reason. Forget the god beasts, Khan hadn't even come across a Lord-rank monster as he flew in the real world since the statue couldn't be taken inside the true dimension, as it was possessed by Jiasung Saja from a completely different realm. Yet, no odd encounters happened as Khan flew at this max speed naturally while taking a detailed view of the scenic landscape of the remnant Abyss Empire. Finally, he could sense a very familiar but also nerve-wracking aura coming from over 70 kilometers away. How was he familiar with it? Because he died to it thousands of times after he was summoned inside the world boundary. As Elric, he had given the legendary go away to the god of darkness. And to reprimand him, the god had killed him thousands of times in mere seconds just to make him humble. So obviously Khan would remember the aura very well. And soon, he saw the world around him changing. Rumble. Crackle. The whole environment was turned pitch black. Whether it was the clouds or the desolate land, everything was just leaking the malicious aura of death and darkness all around. The area was filled with thunderous blue lightnings and black storms rampaging the region endlessly. This is the area even a god beast wouldn't dare enter. It was wise to leave your allies in the Tablet of Arcana. Even that royal dragon wouldn't survive this land of death. Spoke the envoy. We can travel here freely because of my identity and your position as the hero of darkness. Anyone else, even if they possess the darkness element, would instantly die just by coming close to the border. He reiterated firmly. Khan could tell that Jiasung Saja wasn't lying. This wasn't just mere darkness. It was death manifested in the real world. Forget living beings. Even souls wouldn't survive in this land of death. Soon, another monumental construct came into his sight. Is this what remains of the capital of the Abyss Empire? Asked Khan. There was nothing but destroyed landscape, not even a single building remaining as a remnant of the old Abyss Empire. Yes, it was done to protect the abyssal altar of darkness, so that no one dares to enter and destroy the only way to awaken your divine key. Extreme but necessary measure. Explained the statue. Rumble. Finally, after a few minutes, Khan reached the center of the capital, and what lay before him was a massive 2-kilometer-tall tower, enshrouded in darkness and death while surrounded by multiple rampaging storms that would shred anyone who dared go forward. However, Khan neither felt fear nor concern, because darkness was his true element. Couldn't hurt him and might as well empower him. So he easily flew away and then stepped onto a long and large platform extending from the top of the tower. Good. Now let me begin the rites, said the envoy and soon started chanting. Eobtaar nos impertus. Niba Caraga Panmacos. Los Palos Hermanos, shouted the envoy of death grandly. Crackle. Tremble. The entire tower shook and trembled as an ancient mechanism started activating. At the very center of the top of the tower, dozens of massive podiums arose, channeling their energy and giving rise to a new entity. Flutter. Boom! An ear-deafening explosion shook the surrounding 50-kilometer radius. Khan was left untouched only because of his complete affinity to darkness. And finally, out of a dark blue ethereal fire, a gigantic eye with a slanted vertical iris came to be. This is the true form of abyssal altar, said Jiasung Saja as he proclaimed with joy. The Eye of Eternal Death. The envoy of death led Khan to the remnants of the old Abyss Empire's capital, where they found the abyssal altar of darkness. Jiasung Saja then enacted the ancient chant to activate it, and finally, the ginormous existence called the Eye of Eternal Death awoke from its slumber. The aura was 100 times even deadlier and far more oppressive than the whole region surrounding them. Compared to the pressure from the cyclones and rumbling sky they saw before, Khan now felt like he was submerging inside the deepest level of the sea. He couldn't move or even breathe, as if his body would shatter if he tried. Finally, Jiasung Saja cited the forgotten ancient chant, Appa Sarangi. Rumble. The eye finally reverted its deadly aura, and Khan regained control over his body. Those who see it will not even have a place in hell after they die. This may look like an eye, but it is actually one of the eyes of God of darkness, acting as the true gateway to the eternal abyss. This one resides in Vantria while the other one resides in the realm of gods. Iterated the statue in a cold tone. So that's why he has no eyeballs but just glowing red eye sockets. The real eyes are somewhere else, said Khan with a realization. Now follow my command, said Jiasung Saja. In the next few minutes, Khan undressed himself and even left behind all his weapons and the tablet of arcana. He stepped into the center of the altar, right below the ginormous eye. Crack, crack. For long pillars arose from the floor, and before Khan could ask any questions. Stab, stab. Multiple chains made of netherworld energy, the highest form of darkness, impaled his body without any resistance. What's happening? Asked Khan as he felt severe pain. If anyone else were here instead of him, they would have instantly fainted on the spot. To meet the god of death, you must die, replied the envoy of death in a grim voice. Next, the pitch-black sword that Jiasung Saja carried with him turned bigger, now as long as a regular sword. Stab. The sword stabbed into Khan's back and passed right through his heart/core. Boom! Khan's body exploded instantly. Not even his bones remained, while the 50-kilometer radius was simply obliterated into nothingness. Everything other than the Eye of Eternal Death was simply vaporized, including the Tablet of Arcana. And soon, the reality itself started changing as if a new world was being created right then. Swoosh! Finally, Khan's blue cosmic ether form was revealed. This wasn't his body but his true soul. Yet, before Khan could grasp the situation, he felt a force pulling him inside the Eye of Eternal Death. Blip! Khan couldn't resist for even a second and entered the black vertical slit in the eye. After a time unknown to him, for which he had no idea how long, Khan opened his eyes, and the first thing he saw, it was a 50-kilometer tall giant dragon, chained in front of him. The largest dragon he had seen in his life was chained, while massive swords and spears, each 15 kilometers long, were impaling it again and again. It was writhing in pain, but Khan could tell that it was there for some reason. Khan's soul then floated and saw a few other beings, including a god-beast Baihu from a bygone era, that was chopped from head to toe, then thrown into a violet acid pit. Then it was remade back to its peak healthy form, only to repeat the cycle again and again. This was their punishment, and this place was definitely not hell. So we meet again after such a short time. A grim voice echoed in the realm. Khan turned his head around and quickly saw a limitless being sitting on a throne that spanned for thousands of kilometers, but appeared so far yet felt as if it was just a few hundred meters away from him. As for the being sitting on the throne, with bone-like fleshly hands, dark red set of glowing eyes under the black hood, and chains worn around the obsidian armor it wore, it was the god of darkness. After 6 years since his arrival, Khan finally met the god of darkness again. The god, in return, looked at Khan. Boom! Khan died a few more thousand deaths. Why? Why is it you and not him? Asked God of Death wrathfully, minutes after Khan regained control over his soul. Nice to see you too, but I'd appreciate it if you could stop killing me every time we meet, replied Khan. Sigh. If you have any problems with the Martial Emperor, you can take it up with him, replied Khan. He already anticipated this type of warm greeting. How? He has already achieved true death. But the transcendent rune of reminiscence has alleviated the aftereffects. You and I still remember him. I'm certain that the records of the Elder Dragon Salazar also still exist. Those little impetuous, ungrateful runts. They pulled one over me, said the god of darkness with an exasperated tone. Can you blame him? I was skeptical at first why he allowed me to stay in charge instead of taking over from me that day. But now I understand, responded Khan. He said that he never changed from the old Elric until it was too late. And I know my old thought process in the first life. By that time, I would simply be tired of everything. whether it was leading billions of lives to war or even saving the whole multiverse. I would want to rest and be done with every kind of responsibility. And I'm pretty sure that's why he chose to die instead of going through all of these shenanigans about the war with the demon god. Honestly, I can't blame him, said Khan, almost lamenting on the life he never lived. So what now? What use do you have to offer if you're no longer him but a completely new person? Can you use the knowledge of the future like he could have, and make sure that the demon god dies for certain? What about other heroes and heroines? We both know that some of them will be your enemies, and some will even betray you. Although Rom and Termesit have informed me that their chosen heroes have forged ties with you with their blessings, the situation isn't very open or fully established. Iterated God of Darkness with an incredulous countenance. Rome wasn't built in a day. Besides, the Great War will have us meet one another in the future. We can deepen our ties later. But that's not what I'm most concerned about, said Khan, replying casually. What I wish to know of the most at this moment is why. Why did you not tell me about the Abyss Empire? Asked Khan with an expectant gaze. Iron doesn't turn into steel without smelting inside a furnace. If I had told you about their survival, which even the original you found out much later and by chance, would you have turned into the man you're now? Would you be capable of leading and making hard decisions naturally if you had relied on others? Because I absolutely don't need someone like your predecessors with a sense of righteousness or have a dilemma about good and evil. I need a chosen hero who knows the reality of the world and knows that some sacrifices must be made for the bigger cause. Responded God of Death to Khan's complaint. Even the original you was no different. There were times during the Great War when he was needed to perform some important tasks first. But instead, he went around saving millions of lives. People so insignificant that even I, the ruler of death, would have found their deaths repulsive and negligible after they died. He may have saved billions of lives with his decisions. But the result also let other heroes and heroines gain more power and control. If not for his lofty ideals and sense of justice, he could have killed the demon god before the hero of time even fought him and returned to the past. I bet he didn't tell you about his own incompetence, did he? Taunted the god. Khan was surprised by this revelation. Although the martial emperor told him a lot, there were still many things and events throughout the Great War that he didn't mention. Even though it was understandable, given how the timeline was going to reset itself and he couldn't reveal more than he should, it's also possible he made a few mistakes of his own. The hero of sentience is doing the exact same thing he did in the original timeline. And when you face him in this timeline, make sure you finish what the original one couldn't, said God of Darkness in a reprimanding tone. I guess you can't tell what he did and what will happen due to the effect on the timeline, just like the original me could not, right? Asked Khan skeptically. You have grown a few brain cells, it seems, and I want to remind you of something, responded the God of Death. Boom! This time, Khan underwent a few more million deaths in the most excruciating way possible. Even his soul started almost dispersing into nothingness. I do not like your tone. Boy! Khan felt his soul almost shattering into nothingness. The last time I tolerated it was because the original you returned to the exact moment before the summoning in the world boundary. So I had no choice but to play that little game where you insulted and disrespected me with your words and demeanor. And a loser like you fell for our tricks and chose the exact divine abilities we wanted. However, the real you who had earned my recognition is gone. So I do not assume that I would tolerate your casual tone, especially not from this lesser version of you, said the god in a contemptuous tone. The previous one at least knew how to show sincerity and respect when it was due. But now, you seem to have forgotten your place, he cited in a terrifying voice that shook Khan. Embody this truth in your heart and remember this one fact very clearly, said the God of Darkness with fury in his voice. The next moment, his thunderous divine decree echoed. You serve me. Despite their reunion for the first time since Khan entered Vantria, the expected cordial meeting between both the God of Darkness and the Hero of Darkness suddenly turned sour and that of confrontation. It was mainly because the original timeline's Khan, aka the Martial Emperor, was supposed to take over the new Khan's body and lead the upcoming crusade against the demon god with his knowledge of future events. Something that was agreed upon between him and the god of darkness. Instead, the original Khan decided to let the current timelines to stay in control and willingly passed away from the world. Hence, the god of darkness was already both disappointed and angry. Yet, the casual behavior the new Khan displayed while conversing added more salt to the wound instead. And it greatly displeased the god of death possessed the power to even kill the other gods and goddesses. At this moment, the insurmountable deathly aura emitted by the god had killed Khan too many times. Yet his soul was brought back to life at the same time, enacting the god's fury. "You're not my equal, not my subordinate, not my ally or even my underling. You are but my servant boy," bellowed the god of darkness in rage. An absolutely useless retard from an insignificant world whose life was shaped by my will before he even realized. "If not for my powers and our plans, you wouldn't have even survived the conclave of heroes," reminded the god of darkness. This was, as a matter of fact, a fact, although it was the original Khan and the elder dragon Baltaras who returned to the past. It wouldn't have happened without god of darkness' help and powers at all. The new divine abilities, his survival during the conclave of heroes at the hands of an enemy who came from the future, were evidently because of the god of darkness' involvement. Even Khan could not refute or disregard this truth about his new life. "You seem to have grown more complacent and conceited during these years, it seems. Or perhaps you want me to summon another soul from somewhere else and put him in your body," iterated the god of death with a malicious voice. "This is not the world boundary. This is the eternal abyss. This is my absolute domain that even other gods can't enter without my permission," he iterated in an authoritative tone. "So give me a reason," said god of darkness. He made an angry but very effective threat. "Why should I let you return to the real world?" A minute of utter silence passed. Even the torture of the elder dragon and the god-beast Baihu, along with millions of others in the back, momentarily stopped. With a snarky remark, the god of darkness again. "Why? Do you have no answer now that you've realized what your position in our agreement is?" However, instead of responding meekly, Khan's expression turned cold. Yet, he responded in a calm and collected voice. "Sure, you and the original me may have paved the way with your mumbo-jumbo time travel and regressor bullshit," he stated brazenly. "But do you think it was all rainbows and sunshine for me till now? I could have simply chosen to give up. I could have stopped walking on this so-called easy road that you bastards created for me. It was I who walked on that road. It was I who sweated and bled through all those trainings, those battles and situations where I faced imminent threat to my life. Do you think anyone else would want to suffer the immeasurable pain and torture that I went through just to get strong?" he asked firmly. "You think anyone else possesses my mind, my will, and my nature?" confronted Khan with facts. "You don't know what I have been through, you don't know what I have done, and you have no idea what I am capable of," he iterated with a resolute and kingly voice. "If you think any wannabe can be like me, then you don't know me, son." The confrontation between Khan and the god of darkness had reached its peak, beyond repair at this point. It escalated to the point that god of darkness was moments away from erasing Khan's entire existence. But the very next moment, boom! A massive aura erupted that broke through god of darkness' unfathomable pressure. Khan's soul had taken his true cosmic form, his blue body radiating an otherworldly aura as tattoos and inscriptions appeared over his legs and arms, turning them pitch black. This was the current true form of Khan Salvatore, a being that transcended the laws of reality and couldn't be considered human in any aspect. The truth was that his soul wasn't that of just a normal mortal anymore, but now it was also infused with the cosmic ether, the literal essence of the multiverse, which allowed Khan to break free from the subjugation. Swoon. Khan's entire body started growing. 100 meters, then a kilometer in height. Soon 1,000 kilometers, then 10,000 kilometers. In front of God of Darkness, the absolute ruler of death, Khan had broken free from his constraints, in his own domain. Finally, Khan's body turned dark blue, towering over 100,000 kilometers tall in height. Even the previous beings that he saw before were now smaller than ants to him. Now, Khan was at least on the same level as the god of darkness sitting on his throne. "Do you see the irony of this situation?" asked Khan. God of darkness slightly tilted his head, looking at Khan's defiant countenance with both ire and amusement. "I am the hero of darkness, yet I'm being admonished by the very God that chose me in the first place, asking me to prove my worth. And now, I'm breaking from your authority of this realm using a power that I gained from the divine ability created by another god," stated Khan in a stern voice, not backing down from his rebellious stance. "But do you know why I regret this moment now?" he asked coldly. "Because I was given a choice that could have changed my life and freed me from your agreement," he revealed. "What choice?" asked God of Darkness, agitated but curious. "When I achieved the fourth enlightenment in the space law, I met Ram, the god of space," declared Khan. "What?" God of Darkness was shocked. "He offered me a choice, to ditch you and join his side instead," revealed Khan.
Raum.
"That bastard! He dares!" shouted God of Darkness in fury. His wrathful killing intent surged 10 times than before. Author. Planned so freaking long ago for this exact moment when they meet again. With the whole dimensional law, divine ability, space law achievements, linchpin of multiverse, and god of space meeting Khan. Do you know how hard it is to keep everything perfectly tied together with the old and the future plots that I planned years ago? Khan, in return, smirked and spoke. "And honestly, I feel like I should have, because you, on the other hand, have kept too many secrets from me. You haven't truly helped me in any way. Even Cravel's blessings have turned far more useful to me over the years than anything you offered me yourself. Forget receiving any help, even the divine abilities that you guys made me choose. Not a single one of them came directly from you. As for the system itself, the main architect was the original me. You simply put the instructed information in it," elaborated Khan with a snarky gaze. "So sure, go ahead. Replace my soul with someone else and send them into the real world. What difference does it make if the entirety of existence is bound to be annihilated anyway?" stated Khan. At this point, he was revealing so many irrefutable facts one after another. "You gods and deities can play house amongst yourselves. At least I won't have to witness your bickering anymore," said Khan. "Hell, you can even summon other Khans who entered different worlds or lived even more competent lives than I have. Then ask them if they can achieve the same accomplishments in the same scenario," he said with a dignified tone. "Ask them if they can gain the recognition of deities of blacksmithing and forge an ancient rank weapon. Ask them if they can achieve the fourth enlightenment in the space law in such a grand fashion that even the god of space himself has to show up. Ask them if they can run successful businesses, underworld organizations, or a mercenary guild in different empires. Ask them if they can unite a whole empire under their name and become the beacon of hope for billions of people at the same time. Ask them if they can go toe-to-toe with other heroes even without using any of the divine abilities or the divine weapon like I did. Ask them if they can endure all these hardships, responsibilities, and yet succeed every single time like I have," stated Khan, reminding the god of darkness of his real accomplishments that even other heroes in the present era would pale in front of. Khan then stood in a firm stance and spoke in an indomitable tone. "You asked why you should let me return to the real world, since I don't have any use like the original Khan? That's your answer," he stated as his silver hair and shining white eyes glowed even brighter. "There are a million others just like me. Who cuss like me, who just don't give a like me. Who dress like me, walk, talk and act like me. And just might be the next best thing but not quite me," iterated Khan quickly. And the very next moment, he revealed the one fact even the god of darkness couldn't deny. "Because I am the only me." Instead of giving in to the pressure emitted by God of Darkness, Khan broke free on his own, using the powers he acquired within the linchpin of the multiverse, and finally revealed his true cosmic form. Yet, their argument didn't just stop, but rather intensified even more than before. Neither side wanted to back down, so Khan then started tallying his accomplishments in front of the god of darkness, who suggested replacing Khan with someone else since the original Khan, aka the martial emperor, was no longer in the picture. Following on, Khan recounted everything he achieved on his own, something neither the divine abilities nor the blessings he received had a part to play in. Whether it was starting a big business enterprise, underworld organizations, or mercenary guilds, going as far as becoming the emperor of a whole empire while also earning the acknowledgement of deities of blacksmithing and none other than the god of space himself wanting to recruit him, Khan left nothing behind. One could say that his resume was way too strong and he was, in every sense, overqualified for this job. It was a kind of counterattack that even God of Darkness himself wouldn't be able to dismiss or look down on. And finally, Khan ended his rebuttals by saying that there was no one else like him. After Khan was done explaining why he was still the best choice, the previously furious God of Darkness had cooled off his mind after considering all the points the former mentioned. However, God of Darkness' tone turned icy cold as he scoffed. "Ah, are you under the impression that none of your predecessors achieved that kind of feat during their time?" The second hero of Darkness was not only a competent hero but a skilled businessman. In a way, he revitalized the Abyss Empire's commerce and overall economy during the crisis. His actions saved the empire from starvation. And he did that without using his divine abilities or the influence that came with his role as the hero of darkness, said the god. As a form of appreciation, they even married him to the second princess and gave him far more honor than any other hero or heroine of darkness ever received. He was loved and cherished by every single faction, whether the commoners, the royalty, or the cult of Darkborn. He had no enemies or anyone who intended him harm, revealed the god sternly. The sixth heroine of darkness, the one that even Rathnar Whitclock acknowledged before becoming a peak saint, was close to becoming a sage on her own. That's how intelligent and hardworking she was. The only reason she failed to reach that class was because of envy from the imperial family back then, who destroyed her research, fearing that her strength was beyond their control and would be detrimental to their authority. In return, she wiped out the whole imperial family of that time. Why do you think none of Cravel's descendants are the ruling family in the Hidden Abyss Empire now? Asked the god of darkness in a condescending tone. The fourth hero of darkness, Darius Ashbourne, was the strongest hero summoned of his time despite choosing to be an assassin. He could even assassinate someone 3 ranks above him with a simple iron dagger. Iterated god of darkness, looking at Khan mockingly. The seventh hero of darkness almost united the entire Abyss Empire under the cult of Darkborn and was on the verge of becoming the emperor, until I had to stop him and divert his attention to the war with the demon god. His was a story filled with far more struggles than you. If not for the meddling by other empires in crucial times, he might as well have been able to kill the demon god and end this whole thing, iterated the god with a grim tone. I will admit that you have accomplished a lot of notable feats by yourself, but that does not make you anything special than the rest. There are even heroes of other gods in the past, like the sixth hero of space, who even became the emperor of the now called Erdv Empire while reforming the nation. His descendants still rule it to this day. That kind of legacy he left behind, while yours hasn't even started yet, said the ruler of the Abyss. Compared to him, are you any better? Asked the god. Majority of your accomplishments. He spoke and paused before speaking in a completely dismissive tone. They are irrelevant and unnecessary to my cause or your real purpose, he declared. Silence. Another moment of silence ensued as the god of darkness made a striking counterargument that was in fact also correct. So don't act like you're doing me any favor with your inconsequential merits. All of it has no effect or advantages in our main crusade. So do not boast in front of me as if you're some genius born once in a million years. Even Mors, the deity of Slaughter's carnage, and Cravel, the war deity's crusade for world domination, were far more monumental in the history of Vantria to the point that all the gods and goddesses had to interfere directly. So tell me, compared to them, how big a deal your accomplishments are? He asked Khan in a domineering tone. First, Khan lectured God of Darkness, and now God of Darkness was lecturing Khan. In a sense, both were going at each other's throats. not letting the other side get even the slightest upper hand in their confrontation. But if one looked at their sides retrospectively, both of them were right. The confrontation was now at a standstill. Both sides were unable to counterattack or make any extra arguments. If anyone spoke and added more oil to the fire, things would escalate to the point that there was no turning back for either of them. Fine. Let's just say that both of us are right in our own way. But do you really think that now is the time to try and experiment with new things? Asked Khan, still firm with his stance. What if, for some reason, the new person you choose turns out to be incompetent and instead ruins everything I've prepared for the Great War? He asked Khan with a voice full of conviction. It was then, the god of death's eyes glimmered with curiosity for the first time. Do tell me about these preparations of yours, said the god. Khan breathed out a sigh, and soon, he started recounting his recent experiences since the Conclave of Heroes. Following the next 10 minutes, Khan explained his future plans. Whether it was the Rocco's Empire, the allies he made with the Erdv Empire, aka the Empire of Space. Then there was Romulus Lycaeus and Maximus Gladius, the hero of nature. The allegiance between him and heavy host Siegfried, Vanessa's father, who now secretly sided with Khan and would have the whole Vulcan Empire support his side when the right time came. There was also the Misthios mercenary guild that had millions of capable fighters. And lastly, his plans to claim the entirety of the Abyss Empire, unify it, and then lead them into the Great War. He even mentioned how his contract of familiarity tied him to Vildred, the former Lightning Dragon Emperor, and how he had Rathnar's core as well as the Tablet of Arcana. Before, God of Darkness wasn't convinced since he knew of Rathnar's involvement since the original timeline. However, the fact that Vildred and Khan were now master and disciple sparked even bigger curiosity in his mind because he saw great potential for the future war due to their bond. Khan even told God of Darkness how he became the disciple of Miyamoto Musashi. What? The sixth hero of space took you and one of your subordinates as his disciples? Asked the God of Darkness, slightly baffled. Khan then explained his training under the Sword Saint and how he also met and fought with the current hero of space, Sasuke Ryukin. And for the present times, he explained how he met Morrigan Morningstar and now had connections to the cult of Darkborn. However, in the middle of the final part, the God of Darkness suddenly became suspicious and curious. His first question was, "Who is this Argos Belmont? What do you mean, who? Do you not know about his role? He is now the official representative of yours, backing me up. He is the sole reason why none of the empires or those inquisitors have dared to attack me openly yet. He is also the reason why I was able to enter the Abyss Forest." Asked Khan in return instead. "If he is doing such a great service for my cause, why haven't I heard of him till now?" queried the ruler of the Eternal Abyss. Khan made a concerned countenance and gave a diplomatic answer. "I'm going to be honest with you. He is probably the strongest darkness element user among the saints in the whole world. I have witnessed his power. He might be able to become a peak saint in the future. As for his identity, though he does not serve you directly, he is helping me because of a mission passed on to him." Revealed Khan. "Who did he receive the mission from? The cult of Darkborn?" Asked the god. "No. He received it from his adoptive father," responded Khan calmly. "Who is the adoptive father of this vampire you call Argos Belmont?" questioned God of Darkness with great concern. Khan then took a big breath and responded calmly, knowing that God of Darkness was going to lose his mind over this. The eighth hero of Darkness. God of Darkness had finally come to terms with Khan's misdemeanor, while the latter had toned down his voice, speaking formally and keeping his wits and jests to himself. After telling his encounters with every significant person so far, he shifted the topic to his allies. Vildred was a new addition in this timeline, while Miyamoto Musashi had turned into another one of Khan's masters. However, the name Argos Belmont was completely unfamiliar to the God of Darkness. Finally, Khan landed another shocking bomb about his origins and why he was serving the God of Darkness cause despite not being a devotee himself. And the revelation left the God of Darkness shocked. that Argos Belmont was the adoptive son of none other than the infamous 8th hero of darkness. What? How? How come there's someone related to him directly involved in our affairs? I never even heard about this person, and what mission does he have? Asked God of Darkness. Even his skull for a face had creased due to curiosity. He was given the task to find me and lead me to the hidden Abyss Empire, while also ensuring that I can become strong under his protection. He is safeguarding me and also risked his life bringing me to this den of god beasts. If not for him, I would have died along the way. All that effort just so I could awaken my divine key. Iterated Khan, giving an honest answer. As for his intentions afterwards, I do not know, but one thing I'm certain of is that he is an indispensable ally that should be kept close no matter what. Just his existence is more than enough to deter plenty of our enemies, and even the hidden Abyss Empire thinks of him as their great guardian, revealed Khan. Maybe, just maybe, the 8th hero of darkness still had some consciousness left behind and created a hidden powerhouse so that I, his successor, will at least have the chance to properly fight once the Great War starts for this generation of heroes. Said Khan, presenting his assumption. No, I do not trust this person. There is no way a 9th stage saint will have a strong reason to back you up in my stead or the Abyss Empire's, despite having such unfathomable strength, just because he had a promise to keep to someone who died 250 years ago. I clearly remember him, my previous chosen one. He used his own divine weapon to kill himself. He shattered his soul and erased it from complete existence. He knew very well what I would do to him after the things he had done. He just wanted to completely vanish from all of existence instead of facing me and paying for his crimes. And ever since then, I haven't been able to track down your divine weapon either. It's as if it no longer exists in this world. Responded the god of darkness sternly. It was right then. Lord Argos has my divine weapon. He's been safekeeping it for decades. Revealed Khan. What do you mean? Shouldn't the cult of Darkborn have it within the hidden Abyss Empire? How come this adopted son of my previous chosen one has it? Asked the god of darkness. No. He indeed has it in his kingdom, but I have no idea exactly where. That's why he brought me to awaken the divine key so I could finally use it. Iterated Khan. That makes more sense. However, the kingdom of his is in the real world, yet I still can't sense the divine weapon. What secret is he hiding? Said the god with a contemplative tone. As for this Argos, I'm conflicted about his generosity for a valid reason. He iterated. What reason could that be? Asked Khan. The fact that I can remember the events of the original timeline, but I still can't remember who this vampire is. Explained the god. What? How is that possible? Even the Martial Emperor said that Argos existed in the original timeline too, just that they would meet 3 years later in that timeline. I chose to reveal myself to the world believing his words that Argos can be trusted. That's why I presumed that even you were aware of his existence, said Khan, completely flabbergasted. That is why it is important to know who he really is. Now, I can't even put another soul inside you because there is this unknown variable. What if instead of turning into an ally, he is some sort of spy working for a third party? What if he is actually an agent of any one of those empires instead? Said God of Darkness, raising valid questions. I don't think so though, because so far, he is the reason why the Vulcan Empire and the Erdv Empire have turned into our hidden allies. If he was maintaining a facade to help me with malicious intent, why would he help me and inadvertently help your cause in the Great War? As far as I know, he was not allied to any god or the empire serving them, but instead, he declared himself as your representative during the Conclave of Heroes. If he was a double agent, then he absolutely had no reason to go that far because in the long run, even if he betrayed us, it would hinder his influence and burn all the bridges with other sovereigns and the empires following the gods. I would suggest that, for now, let's keep an eye on him. Stated Khan, giving his own insight into this present scenario. While I have misgivings about the situation, I think there is a reason why I can't remember him, said the god. Huh? What reason could that be? Asked Khan skeptically. You said it yourself, that the original Consalvator met him 3 years in the future, but he has now appeared far earlier. Maybe he isn't supposed to get involved in the matters of the demon god, even in the original timeline. He must have acted only as the original Khan's guardian but did not fight in the Great War. Yet something or someone forced him to. For example, the royal dragon you have accepted as your master. He was supposed to be the slave of the hero of life in the original timeline, a fearsome enemy. And now he is an ally. There is also the hero of fire that you killed and the hero of space, whom you should have met 7 years later. The hero of nature was supposed to die in the future, but now, he too will live on. Not to mention, you have acquired Sleipnir more than a decade earlier from the original Khan. All of these are irreversible major changes from the events of the original timeline. Revealed the god of darkness in a serious voice. The law of causality, which occurs only when the timeline has been changed, leaves few variables that the timeline itself failed to rectify. It will cause ripples in the timeline, and if there are 2 or more variables like this, then an anomaly comes to exist. Someone who existed in the original timeline, but now his or her role has completely changed and would impact the future drastically. The timeline erases the tracks of such individuals. And if my guess is correct, revealed the god of darkness and gave a hypothesis. Argos Belmont might become a key character in defeating the demon god. A couple of minutes later, Khan was still bewildered, rooted to the spot as he still couldn't accept the revelation by the god of darkness. That his benefactor, who even the martial emperor completely trusted in the original timeline, could be a major influence during the Great War. Does that mean what I think it means? Asked Khan, still shocked. Yes, there is a possibility. There is no other explanation why even a god like me couldn't remember him. I'm certain other gods who must have regained a few memories about their part in the original timeline. Even they can't remember him. Looks like the fate has finally turned. Iterated the god sternly. Because the timeline itself is hiding this Argos Belmont. Declared the god of darkness delightfully. Even the original you had come to realize that there was no way left to defeat the demon god. And since the hero of time offered us an opportunity, we managed to bring him into the past. The fixed fate of the world has been finally changed. It may be for the better or may be for the worse, but it is definitely different from the original timeline now. This Argos Belmont is one of those figures that will impact the ending of this great war. There could be more people like him, just that neither you nor I know of them or had contact with them in this timeline. Explained the god of darkness. So we must use this to our advantage. This Argos Belmont. Bring him to our side completely, no matter what. Said god of darkness. He wasn't requesting. No, this was an order. Looks like you still have your uses. The next time we meet will be when you enter the Hesperides for the limit breaking. You must at least become an 8th stage saint before it. Only then will you have the benefit of those 2 apples of Eden preserved for you there. If things go right, you might be able to become a demigod in this timeline. Declared the ruler of the eternal abyss. And finally, rumble, tremble. Khan's body trembled from just the noise as the god of darkness finally stood up from his throne for the first time. Crack! 4 extra arms came out of the side of his back, made out of completely pitch-black bones. Shing! A circular halo of dark purple light, comprising innumerable ancient runes of immemorial eras, shone behind his head. The god of darkness was twice in height compared to Khan's cosmic form. Swoosh! And finally, the god of darkness summoned his weapon. A massive black scythe with crawling flesh and bones encapsulating the blade and the long snath. This is my weapon, Liber Exterminatus, the bringer of death and balance. Declared the god of darkness firmly, and his red eyes shone even brighter. Do not disappoint me, new Consalvator. The next time we meet, you'd better have achieved everything you promised me first. Only then can I fully trust your capability to carry on my will as the hero of darkness. Declared the god of death and raised his weapon high. Wait, wait, wait! Exclaimed Khan. But before he could even react to what was happening, slash! God of Darkness chopped Khan in half. Boom! Khan's cosmic form was split into two and disappeared from the eternal abyss. A few minutes later, the eye of the eternal death in the real world let out a flying soul from its iris. The soul began to form a mortal body that quickly regenerated flesh. Khan's real body was reconstructed from scratch. And as soon as Khan opened his eyes, the slumbering system gave him a notification. Divine Key. Death Slayer has been awakened. Right after God of Darkness, the ruler of the eternal abyss was convinced by Khan's future plans. He raised his weapon and cut his chosen, the hero of darkness, in half. Afterwards, Khan returned to the real world. His soul ejected out of the eye of eternal death, and his body reformed as the system rang a notification in his head. Divine Key. Death Slayer has been awakened. Khan's eyes widened in shock. But before he could absorb the fact, rumble. The now pulverized world around them started rumbling as the time itself turned back. Soon, the devastated land restored itself, and the abyssal altar of darkness returned to its previous form in moments, along with the tornadoes and lightning. Shing! The platform itself came back, and even Khan's clothes, all his weapons, and the tablet of Arcana were fully restored to their original form. Snap! With a snap of his fingers, he wore the legendary rank robes, and the weapons returned to his space ring. The tablet of Arcana was also glimmering with its distinct aura, and lastly, the statue of Jiasung Saja came to be out of nothingness. So you finally returned, said the envoy of death. Finally? It's been barely half an hour after I entered the eye of eternal death, replied Khan, slightly puzzled. Half an hour. For you. For us, it's been 10 days, replied the small statue. What? Did the time work differently in the eternal abyss? Questioned Khan curiously. Yes, even hell's time is maintained along with the real world. But the eternal abyss works very differently. God of Darkness has spent more than a few thousand billion years there by himself, to extend the punishment of the souls of those who were sent there. In a way, it is a punishment to himself as well. But he endures it to keep the balance of the world, to ensure that even the most powerful beings in the world do not forget what awaits them if they cross a line that shouldn't be crossed. Iterated the envoy in a grim tone. That tenacity is a characteristic that even the god of time has admired about him in the past, said the envoy with vehemency. So, feeling something different about yourself? Asked the statue. Khan then closed his eyes, assimilating his mind and body to detect if something was different. I feel like my body is surging with strength and vigor. It's as if some kind of chains over me have broken. Chains I never knew existed. Responded Khan. Sounds about right. Before the awakening, your soul's potential is suppressed so your body can adapt to Vantria. Although your potential is still superior, now you will truly see the extent of what you can achieve. It is important, especially if you want to become a demigod. Responded the deity. So souls are one of the key factors? Asked Khan. Yes, that's why many can't even become a peak saint despite having the body, the resources, time, and talent on their side. Because most lack the methods to cultivate one's soul. However, even those you have found a way, they fail to break through due to some strong lingering desires. To break from the shackles set by the world, you must break the chains you've set around yourself first, responded the statue with a tone filled with wisdom. However, that is just one of the conditions. The rest can't be achieved by just anyone. You will understand if you become a peak saint, elaborated the envoy. Khan nodded, and it was right then. Calibration completed. The divine key, Death Slayer, has awoken a new power granted by the God of Darkness. The following is the newly granted power. Remembrance of the Dead, Abyssal Rank. Active. The following power allows the host to read the memories of the dead. If he wishes, he can enter their mind and relive the moments as well as experience them himself. There are no limits to how far in the target's life or the time of memories they've lived. You can read or relive their childhood, even the most specific moments of choosing. There will be no resistance to the host's power or backlash inflicted on the host himself. Reported the system. Khan was simply flabbergasted, but then composed himself. Remembrance of the dead was the very power that helped the martial emperor read the memories of Hero of Time, learn the spell from God of Time, and then make his plans to return to the past. If not for this very power granted by God of Darkness, the current, aka new Khan would have died in this timeline. So this was the biggest life-saving skill for both the original and the current Khan. That's a decent farewell gift, even though he killed me to give it. It will be certainly useful in many situations, said Khan. To him, it was no less than any of Cravel's blessings that served him so well. The system has found few limitations set on this power to preserve the host's soul. Suddenly, the system warned. Huh? There are limitations? Asked Khan to the system. Yes. The following are the restrictions placed on the use of remembrance of the dead. The target of this power must have been killed by the host himself or his subordinates, who are the extension of his divine abilities. It shall not work on targets killed by any other allies or even the host's descendants. The person/target shouldn't be dead for more than 24 hours. The remembrance of the dead can't work if the soul has left the body already. The head of the targeted being must be left intact to use the power. The rest of the body parts or organs are not required. The rank and levels of the target must be lower than the host. Reported the system. This is such a powerful and helpful ability. Shame there are such restrictions. And what is the abyssal rank? Asked Khan. Instead, it was Jiasung Saja who replied. The abyssal rank abilities are the highest ranked abilities that can be granted by the God of Darkness. These are not divine abilities and aren't tied to your soul. Rather, they are tied to your new awakened divine key. However, the limitations are placed so that your soul doesn't get burdened by its power since you already have 3 divine abilities. Also, using it would burden the divine key as well. Hence, these restrictions are placed so that you don't overuse it and destabilize your divine key, which would hinder your growth speed as you become stronger. It is a powerful gift, and it can be used for many advantages when used the right way. Explained the Envoy of Death. I'm aware. It literally saved my life whether it was the old timeline or this one. I shall use it well and on necessary targets. Replied Khan as he already knew how absurdly useful this power granted by God of Darkness was. Now that the Great War will begin in a few months, it will be most helpful, he said with a sly grin. But it was right afterwards. Another surprise came to his mind, and his countenance turned outright devilish. Why wait for the Great War? It will help me very well in my next goal after returning, he said with an evil smile. Khan suddenly saw so many possibilities and strategies he could use, as well as devise using the remembrance of the dead. Not only was it going to make his life much easier going forward, it was going to let him decimate his enemies passively, even without lifting a finger if he used it right. Ha ha ha! Laughed Khan maniacally. Even the Jiasung Saja spoke to himself after hearing Khan's sinister laughter. This guy has issues. Lots of issues. Khan and the Envoy of Death left the area surrounded by the abyssal altar of darkness and finally returned to the normal real world. So where are we heading now? Asked the statue. What do you mean by we? Aren't you going back to work? Asked Khan. Nope. I was saving up my leave of absence for so many millions of years. I think it will be best to stay around a bit longer and see the interesting war that's to come. I've never paid attention to the whole crusade thing ever since it started. So it's the best time to cash out my cards since I'll get to watch from the front seat. Hee hee, said Jiasung Saja playfully. Besides, my staying with you is going to help as well, stated the envoy. How can it be of help to me? Asked Khan skeptically. I can share information with you about the matters of gods and deities. The chatter in the realm of transcendence can be helpful since everyone is so bored and also places bets on the heroes and heroines every time the Great War starts. Revealed the Grim Reaper. Khan then thought for a second and could already imagine the benefits. It was like having a spy in the top administration of the government. There were many things he could use to his advantage. Fine. But if you want me to accept your proposal, There's a big favor you must do for me when the time is right, iterated Khan sternly. What kind of favor? Asked the envoy of death. Khan let out another devious smile as he replied with a mischievous tone. A favor you can't refuse. Khan listened to Jiasung Saja's proposal to take him with them, and he stated how Khan could benefit from the talks and rumors in the realm of deities in the future. Although gods and goddesses could oversee the matters of the world, they didn't gather and have a chit-chat over the dinner table. Deities, however, were often bored and did meet to share information as well as raise wagers on the heroes for fun. Khan, who was blessed by the war deity and many of his subordinates, who were also the official apostles of other deities, pretty much had the latter faction's eyes set on them. So in a way, Khan would have an insider in the realm of transcendence and could exploit their nature to benefit him. However, he suddenly asked the envoy of death to do him a favor that the latter won't be able to refuse. Huh? It isn't an offer you can't refuse, but a favor you can't refuse? Asked the statue with a puzzled tone. Yes, let me explain first, said Khan, and soon elaborated his plan. After 10 minutes of hearing his explanation, this is absurd, unacceptable, total deception, a white lie. You're both diabolical and utterly shameless to even think about something like this, shouted the envoy of death. But the very next moment, that's a bingo, replied the Grim Reaper as he snickered. So what do you think? Is it or is it not a favor you can't refuse? Asked Khan, returning the same snicker. It is indeed a favor I can't refuse. You know what? Since I'm on vacation for a few years, I might as well enjoy it. And after what you proposed, I don't think that even my liege would have any problems with me doing this. Responded the envoy. All right then, let's share the good news with the rest, he said, and summoned the rest of the crew out of the Tablet of Arcana. Soon, he shared what happened inside and how his new power worked. Khan intentionally did not mention his conversation with God of Darkness about Argos to anyone since he had some skepticism of his own. But the fact that he had the God of Darkness' approval for their future plans also added a sense of assurance in their minds. Morrigan in particular was thoroughly excited. She asked how the God of Darkness looked and felt in reality. Khan described things as he saw, even mentioning how the god was torturing an elder dragon and even many creatures like God Beast Baihu from the immemorial era. He was both majestic and reliable. Obviously, Khan couldn't tell her the reality that he and God of Darkness were bickering like a married couple. He did not want to traumatize the daughter for the rest of her life. This, in a way, would increase her respect and subconscious approval of Khan as their cult leader. Khan would need Morrigan to handle a lot of things going forward. So if he instinctively became a loyalist to him, not just because he was the promised leader but because the God of Darkness also approved of him and his vision for the Abyss Empire, Khan would get a loyal retainer for the rest of his life. So what do you think? He asked Argos. We'll work just as your previous strategy, but it will just make things easier and save a lot of trouble convincing the masses to join our side. I do not prefer such methods, but given our situation, it would be foolish not to use every weapon under our arsenal. Responded the vampire sovereign, approving Khan's new ideas. Will you back him up when that happens as the so-called Great Guardian? Asked Vildred. Yes, I was already planning to, since we don't have time to spare, because I, too, need to return to the borders of the Demon Empire soon. The parley I agreed upon with the Demon Emperor won't exist after he breaks through higher rank. Even with other sovereigns on our side, only I and Sylvester Armstrong, the warfare sovereign, are strong enough to hold off their advances. If Khan succeeds in achieving the last goal, forget me protecting him. Those who wish to kill him will need the protection themselves, said Argos playfully. Where are we going, children? Asked the envoy of death. To my empire, replied Khan. To the empire that you're currently staying in? Asked the Grim Reaper. No. To the one I rule, responded Khan with a light smile. Now let's hide. We will travel secretly using the true dimension again, declared Khan. Why are we hiding? Can't we just travel normally through the real world? Asked Jiasung Saja. How can we? when the god-beasts lurk in the vast lands of this empire. Even I, a ninth-stage saint, can't fight them at my full strength. Revealed Argos. Then what about you, dragon? Asked the statue to Vildred. I'm not at my peak, sir. And even if I was, the result would be no different since I'm not an elder dragon or an archangel. Responded the lightning dragon emperor. And you, chosen one? He then asked Khan. I have many ways and abilities to kill strong opponents. However, even those means are rendered useless since the god-beasts can even bend reality with their will, turning even my space law skills ineffective before I could even reach them. Even Amaterasu won't be able to kill a god-beast because of my lacking strength. Fighting against them is just willingly jumping into the Han River. Elaborated Khan. It's not that their crew was filled with weak people. It's just that the enemies were existences that stood at the pinnacle of strength in the mortal realm. Ah, I see. Since it's going to be this, let me extend a hand. Declared Jiasung Saja. Huh? What do you mean by that? How can you help? You're merely possessing this statue at the moment. Questioned Khan with a valid reason. That may be so, but do not forget who possesses this statue. They may be god-beasts, but I'm the envoy of death. These beasts, no matter how powerful they are, couldn't even come close to the abyssal altar of darkness all these centuries. Do not forget this chosen one. Yama rules hell while my liege reigns over the eternal abyss. But when it comes to the mortal realm, spoke Jiasung Saja in a grim voice, I'm the death incarnated myself. Khan remained stupefied for a moment, and only then did he come to realize that just because the envoy of death was temporarily possessing the small statue at the moment, didn't mean the deity himself couldn't use its powers. Tell me, how are they going to face me, the personification of death in the mortal realm? Asked Jiasung Saja with a confident tone. I apologize for looking down upon your strength. However, how far can you exert your strength without facing any consequences? Said Khan and inquired. To the point of killing at least 2 god-beasts without any issues, replied the Grim Reaper coldly. Gasp! The collective gasp echoed in the surroundings, followed by a pin-drop silence. The shock came from their hearts because they barely survived the last time, and even there, Khan was still in danger of being found out. Fortunately for them, Khan had already entered the true dimension and erased the traces of space law while God-Beast Baihu was focused on his cosmic replica. And by the time it found the backup replica, he was already far away to the point the God-Beast wouldn't even be able to detect him. Yet no one had forgotten how helpless they were. Thus, after the envoy of death said that even this possessed statue could allow him to kill not 1, but 2 God-Beasts without suffering any backlash, they could not hide their bewilderment. We are blessed by the magnanimous God of darkness himself. That is why we have the mighty and invincible figure like the envoy of death leading us back to safety. Otherwise, our fates would still be hanging by threads. Spoke Morrigan, her tone filled with gratitude and loyalty. Yes, only you among these heathens have eyes, my child, said Jiasung Saja with a proud tone, relishing in Morrigan's vehement praise. All right, let's depart then. Without hiding this time, said Argos and summoned his flying ship. This time around, none of them even conjured a concealment barrier or an isolation magic formation. Swoosh, swoosh, they soon soared into the sky and traveled at their maximum speed through the clouds, unafraid of anything that might come their way. No one questioned the authenticity of Jiasung Saja, because a deity wouldn't lie to the chosen representatives of the god he served, of all people. Hence, they felt both relieved and assured for their safety. 3 days later, thud, thud, boom, a figure that was made even mountains dwarfed in front of his enormous body, reached the borders of the abyssal altar of darkness. Pitch-black fur, a body leaking streams of molten lava and bound by massive chains made of an unknown metal. Sniff, he was here, and just like Baihu said, there was a royal dragon with him too. Damn it! If only I had received this information earlier, I would have found and killed him before he could even detect my presence, said this ginormous beast. His nose then directed in the very direction Khan had left for. No matter how long it takes, as long as you're within the Abyss Empire, I will hunt you down, hero of darkness," said the monstrous being as tall as God-Beast Baihu on its 4 legs. It howled, and the shockwaves pulverized the nearby 20-kilometer radius, and most of the landscape suddenly disappeared as if it was engulfed by an unknown void. The being who had tracked Khan's scent was none other than God-Beast Fenrir. Khan and the group traveled fearlessly for the first time after entering the Abyss Forest. He and the others no longer felt like small prey hiding from the predators roaming around in the jungle. For the next 3 days, they traveled uninterrupted until the flying ship artifact overheated and needed time to cool down as Argos, Khan, and Vildred did some maintenance on the ancient rank artifact. Khan happily helped, knowing that if not for this ship, the travel would have lasted for months, and even he would not have been able to travel at such speed with all his abilities. And as the evening came, Argos summoned a small castle where all of them decided to take some rest and forget about the worries of the future. The following day, swoosh, the journey resumed without any problems for another day, and now it had been almost 25 days since they entered the Abyss Forest. A couple more days, and they would be out of this godforsaken place and carry on their future plans. However, just as everyone had finally become carefree and complacent, "We're being chased," exclaimed Argos. "Over at least 800 kilometers away, something is tracking us," iterated the Vampire King with a concerned face. "Is that the God-Beast Baihu again?" asked Khan. "No, we already took a different route to avoid running into him. Besides, the aura is completely different." He felt like it was bereft of life, as if repulsing nature itself. "This one feels like it's trying to devour all life, and it thrives by feeding on everything, even the laws of reality," elaborated Argos. "What should we do? Wait for it to come or hide?" asked Morrigan. "Hide? That's not an option. My possession of the statue would end if you enter the true dimension or put me into that relic of yours. Besides, didn't I say that you do not have to worry with me around?" said the envoy of death. "Let it come, whatever it is," proclaimed Jiasung Saja proudly. Crackle. Soon, an ethereal dark barrier, spanning over 200 meters, surrounding the flying ship entirely, came to be. The crystalline rays of light shimmered around the barrier as if it were made of diamonds themselves. And a couple of minutes later, crumble. The surrounding 30-kilometer radius started crumbling on its own as if nature itself was dying. The mountains turned into sand, which itself started disappearing into nothingness. The rivers evaporated, and even the steam itself disappeared before it reached a few hundred meters above the ground level. All the flora and fauna first dried up and then crumbled to dust before disappearing. This was similar to the effect when the God-Beast Baihu arrived. But at the same time, it was distinct because in the first case, at least the traces of the original environment were left. This time, however, all of it disappeared as if an unknown force was engulfing it. And no, all the debris or the sand didn't get swallowed by the true dimension either. Otherwise, Khan would have noticed it with his space law abilities. This power was beyond their comprehension. "I know this. I've seen and survived this before," said Rathnar. "What? Who does this power belong to?" asked Khan. But before the Peak Saint could respond, boom! Suddenly, the air stopped, the time stopped, and the world itself forgot how to function as multiple cracks in reality formed. A titanic being as big as Baihu entered their sight. Its charcoal black fur, the terrifying red eyes, and the cracks leaking magma around the skin became clear to them. The gigantic chains around its body even added a sense of mystery to its terrifying appearance. While it was breathing fire from both the mouth and the eyes as multiple ancient runes glowed and floated around its dense fur all over the body. Although it stood 30 kilometers away, it felt like the ferocious being was staring directly into their souls and standing in front of them. "Found you, hero of darkness," spoke the God-Beast. Right then, Rathnar finally had the chance to finish as he introduced God-Beast Fenrir. The world around them had turned deadly silent. The ground started melting as rivers of magma spread around. The black fumes reached the sky, and the clouds turned dark. Rumble. The sky then started shooting red lightning bolts, raising the surroundings to smithereens as the one being called the Devourer had appeared in front of them. The world had given this title to God-Beast Fenrir for many reasons, and even beings like elder dragons and archangels had problems facing this humongous beast on their own. There was already a famous story about how the God-Beast Fenrir of a few million years ago had gone on a rampage for some reason, and most of the existing empires were established on what remained. Each empire was as big as a continent on its own, but apart from the Dragon Empire, all of them were destroyed by this world disaster, creating new borders and landscapes that became the foundation of the current global topography. The matters were so dire that an elder dragon and 2 other archangels had to combine their forces just to barely manage and kill it at last. And the God-Beast Fenrir of the current era, a successor who possessed the same powers and might, now stood just 30 kilometers away from them. Even Blackwell in his mythical primordial titan form would look like a small pup in front of this godly beast. How dare you enter the Abyss Forest despite knowing that all of us were sealed here? Did you think that you could just come here, awaken your divine key, and leave without any price to pay? Asked the God-Beast, its terrifying, eerie, and grim voice sending shivers down their bodies. Just like your predecessor, you must be brimming with overconfidence. The last time it worked because he had so much help from all those divine weapons and the hero cores to make it happen. This time, you shall pay for this act of defiance against the natural order and become our escape from this dreadful land. Proclaimed the majestic beast with fury burning in its eyes. For the love of God, settle your issues with him. Stop hunting me. I had nothing to do with it. Why do I have to pay for his actions? Shouted Khan back. This has become a theater routine now. People keep hunting me, threatening me, trying to kill me, and giving me lectures on why I should die because of something my predecessor did. This is getting both annoying and cliché now, said Khan, rolling his eyes. His disgruntled face confused the God-Beast as it spoke. Do you think you're in the presence of some wild beast here? Kneel! Shouted Fenrir and exerted all of its insurmountable aura. Boom! Crackle! The land below sank 2 kilometers, but the entire 30-kilometer radius did not turn into a massive, inescapable crater. If a city were ever established there, they wouldn't get sunlight other than the peak afternoon hours. And the land was reformed to this degree just by the aura of this terrifying God-Beast. Sniff! The God-Beast suddenly stopped in its steps and smelled something that raised its curiosity. The royal dragon, why a direct blood descendant of that lizard Salazar here? Didn't Balteras warn you not to enter these lands? Has he broken his oath? Questioned the God-Beast. I was sealed somewhere for over a millennium. I do not know of the pact or oath that you had with the great elder dragon. But I have a question, replied Vildred and asked instead. How do you know my great-great-grandfather? Questioned the former dragon emperor. How old do you think I am, child? Asked the God-Beast instead. Close to 100,000 years? Guessed Vildred. Ha! Looks like you're using the Dragon Empire's logic here. Every God-Beast still living in this world is more than 2 million years old. Revealed Fenrir. What? How is that possible? Even an elder dragon or archangel can't live past a few 100,000 years. Even the current leader of the archangels is less than 250,000 years old. Aren't you basically immortal? Asked Vildred. How that works, I have no reason to explain it to you. As for how I knew your ancestor, said Fenrir, and soon his tone turned vengeful. The archaic runes and glyphs surrounding my body, that was his doing. He said it would help ease my pain and satiate my unending hunger. But he lied and disappeared, breaking our pact. Revealed the God-Beast. I do not know if you are aware, the elder dragon Salazar died more than 50,000 years ago. Responded Khan. Shock? The God-Beast was shocked for some reason. How? He should be an unkillable and undying being, just like us God-Beasts. Out of all the elder dragons, his power was beyond anything possible to the dragon species after he achieved the 5th enlightenment in the space law. iterated God-Beast Fenrir, his tone filled with bewilderment. First, this mark of betrayal reminds me of my foolishness in trusting a dragon. And now, the most humiliating part, where I was shackled here by a brat brought from one of those lowly worlds. I shan't accept it, bellowed the God-Beast as his fury reached its peak. You all should just die. Only then will I be able to quell my rage, declared Fenrir. His aura surged to the point that the time itself stopped again. But it was right then. Boom! His aura and the mystical power shattered as a world-shaking voice resounded from Khan's entourage. Junior! A sinister voice echoed as Jiasung Saja released his grim and deadly aura. Are you courting death? The terrifying being, which possessed the power to both destroy and reshape the world, now stood dozens of kilometers away, yet its ferocious gaze had frozen Khan and his group. After learning the fact about the elder dragon Salazar's demise and remembering the shame caused by the eighth hero of darkness, the God-Beast Fenrir lost all his cool and decided to kill everyone present. His aura was a form of power that was more than enough to kill all of them, just like God-Beast Baihu did with his aura previously. However, unlike the first time, they now had a powerful backer of their own. Junior! The deathly and menacing voice echoed in a 50-kilometer radius. Are you courting death? The malicious aura burst forth, overthrowing Fenrir's, while all the previously dangerous, mysterious energy waned like it never existed. Since Khan and his allies were not the target, they couldn't feel how overwhelming it was. But on the other end, God-Beast Fenrir could. In mere moments, not only did his pressure disappear, but the beast could feel its bones cracking and internal organs churning. The chains around the body tightened while even the glyphs and runes floating on its fur shook again and again. In mere moments, he turned from the aggressor to the oppressed. Yet, he still maintained his dignified appearance outside, not backing down even though he could fall at any given moment due to this mortifying aura. Who is this? This is not a power that a living being in this world possesses. It reeks of death, but also the aura has traces of divinity. It is me, brat. Looks like your memory needs to be jogged, spoke Jiasung Saja. Huh? Where is this voice coming from? Wondered Fenrir. I'm right here, you mutt. Stop ignoring me, shouted the envoy of death and flew in front of the ship, suspended in the air. The small statue then reverted to its original form, 100 meters tall. I still don't know who you are, said God-Beast Fenrir. Ah, then you'll probably remember this, replied the massive statue. Swoosh! The Joseon era sword in the statue's hand suddenly disappeared, and the following moment, swoosh! Bang! At lightning speed, the real 20-kilometer-long sword of the envoy of death dropped from the sky. Rumble! Tremble! The surrounding 15-kilometer radius shattered again, and the titanic sword, almost double the Fenrir's size, plunged itself into the ground, creating a wall-like barricade in between them. Even the God-Beast was shocked and bewildered to its core as it gazed at the blade of the pitch-black sword that wouldn't even reflect light. It's you. You were there that day, spoke Fenrir in a flabbergasted tone. Yes, I was. Not that you remember it. I have a message from the Old One. I thought I'd get to convey it on the day of your destined demise, spoke the Grim Reaper. A message from the Old One? What did that bastard have to say to me? Asked the God-Beast. Before he entered the cycle of reincarnation, he told me to tell you one day when it was your time, to say thank you. Said Jiasung Saja. Thank you, said Fenrir, his eyes filled with both regret and yearning. What does his thankfulness mean at this point? He was freed from this hellish life while I took his place. Who knows how long I have to endure this agony? Said Fenrir, reminiscent of something. What day is he talking about? Asked Khan with a confused countenance. The day he killed the old God-Beast Fenrir and took his place more than 2 million years ago, responded the envoy of death. God-Beasts aren't like dragons or archangels that are favored by Vantria. They are placeholders, being that must exist no matter what. The only distinct fact that separates them is that all of them start as mere monsters, evolve in their own way, and reach the pinnacle of strength. Some even have powers that can be considered an anomaly and shouldn't be allowed to exist in the first place. Yet somehow, there is one challenger who succeeds and finally kills the placeholder. And as a result, they become the god beast themselves, getting their title, inheriting the predecessor's powers, and also the burden that comes with it. All 5 god beasts exist for that very reason, and their shackles are no different. Each one is bound to live on, even if they want to die, until the day a new challenger kills them and takes their place. And the cycle shall repeat itself. Revealed the envoy of death. So even a variant can become a god beast? Queried Khan again. Yes, as a matter of fact, the one standing in front of us was not even born as a direct descendant of the Fenrir bloodline. He iterated. But before they could continue, how was he, when you took him to the underworld? Asked God-beast Fenrir. The envoy of death replied in a gentle voice, blissful, free, and unburdened, no different than those who came before him. I see. I would have preferred to die that day if I knew what would happen next. Even the others must share the same notion as I. Achieving the pinnacle of strength? What a foolish dream. This life is a living nightmare. Wish I could kill myself, but this world keeps bringing me back. Alas, how was he in his new life? Stated and queried Fenrir. In his next life, he was born as a normal human, a woodcutter to be exact. He lived only 60 years before dying. But it was fulfilling, and he died, surrounded by his children and his wife. He had no regrets, and in his last moments, it felt as if he remembered his previous life. Revealed the Grim Reaper. After hearing these words from the envoy, the god-beast almost staggered on its spot. His expression was one of both envy but also pity at the same time. He too yearned for an end like this. Since it is you of all people, can you tell me a way? Asked the god-beast. The stone statue remained silent for a while. There is no other way. Even the gods can no longer intervene since Vantria has basically shunned them. After what happened 40 million years ago, they would have preferred to erase this phenomenon themselves. But it is a fate that can no longer be averted. Responded the envoy with a stern tone. When will my time come? Is there anyone who can kill me and take my place in the world? If there is, how can I find them? Asked Fenrir. Sigh. But in response, all Jiasung Saja did was speak with a sigh. There are a few of them, but as of this moment, no one can even surpass a peak saint if one were to exist in this era. Besides, all of them are far away. You can't even find the closest one since I'm told you lot can't leave the Abyss Forest. Responded the envoy. I see. So I'm bound to be this helpless for millions of years to come? This seal. Only another being as strong as a demigod or deity can break it. But I have no hope left. This world hasn't even born a peak saint in the past 800 years, let alone a demigod. And these pests called the heroes, they're an eyesore. Their existence shouldn't have been allowed in Vantria in the first place. I might as well end this one here and help that so-called demon god in destroying the world. The other god beasts have the same idea as I. Once I kill this human, I will be free and search for him. Maybe then we all will be able to finish this cycle. If the rest of the world perishes along, so be it, iterated the god beast. It was right then. Wait, if dying is your wish, then I have a proposal. Spoke a certain someone. The young man in a dark gray long coat spoke as his face showed both confidence and dignity. Even if you kill me and get free from whatever that's sealing you in the Abyss Forest, there is no guarantee that you'll be able to find someone who can kill you and take your place, said Khan with an upright tone. Also, there are 2 people right in front of you who have the potential to become a demigod, he said firmly. Do not jest, otherworldly child. Even a chosen hero like you can't hope to become a demigod. The scumbag who sealed all 5 of us here was not even able to become a peak saint despite possessing such enormous strength and the cores of his fellow chosen heroes. So who can even break our seals? Certainly, The envoy of death can't do it since he is merely possessing that stone statue. And even if he can somehow kill me, I will be reborn again in just a few days," stated the god beast. "So my best choice is to kill you here today and help the demon god to destroy this world. Why would I risk my fate and assured death at the hands of a nobody who doesn't even possess the strength on par with his predecessor?" asked the god beast with scorn. Khan soon told him how he had a way to surpass his limits and even the tablet of arcana at his disposal. "So what? The relics have existed for hundreds of millions of years already. Not a single one who possessed them became a demigod till now. So what makes you think I'll believe your obvious lies?" asked Fenrir with a furious tone. "Not what, but who," replied Khan. "Because I have him," said Khan, and soon a soul projection appeared above their heads, and an ethereal form of an old man, clad in white and golden armor, while holding a great sword in his hand, appeared in front of the god beast. The god beast's eyes widened in shock as it spoke. "So it's you again, Rathnar." Although the deterrence force to protect their lives was present by their side, the supposed powerhouse started conversing with their pursuer instead, talking about their previous encounter, as all Khan and the others could do was watch and listen without moving. And regardless of how civilized the exchange they had, the god-beast Fenrir was still intent on killing Khan so he could be freed from the invisible seal that bound him for 300 years. But one thing that could be considered as fortunate information is that they also learned a bit about the roles of the god-beasts themselves. That they were placeholders for something unique about Vantria, that even after being killed, the world itself would revive them within a day. So even if Jiasung Saja, the envoy of death, somehow killed Fenrir, they would have only one day of heads-up before the god-beast caught up with them. And given the envoy of death's previous claims, he could kill a god-beast at most twice. So the main question was, would the 2 days be enough for them to escape the beast's grasp and leave Abyss Forest? The answer was no. Because of god-beast Baihu hunting them for over a week already, their journey was delayed, and the route also had to be changed from time to time. Although the past few days were uninterrupted and harmless, the delayed time would not help them make up for the additional 2 days they had at hand after killing Fenrir. The god-beast would still find them and finish the job before they even saw the borders of the Abyss Forest. So what could Khan do to circumvent their perilous situation? Thankfully, due to the Grim Reaper revealing things of the past regarding the previous god-beast Fenrir, they learned that the almighty monster wished to die. So the best leeway to get out of here was to propose a deal with him where they could find a way to get what they want. Besides, now that Khan had heard the god-beast reveal the fact that he and others were already planning to kill him and later join the demon god so he could destroy this whole world, Khan must do whatever it takes for that to happen. Because what's the point of surviving now if the whole world is going to get destroyed a decade later anyway? Living for 10 more years wasn't going to be enough for Khan, since even if he started a family of his own, they too won't live long. So there came a counteroffer instead to provide god-beast Fenrir a reason to let Khan go instead of delivering upon his grudge. Since it was evidently clear that to truly kill any god-beast, one needed a proper challenger to fight and kill them and take their place. However, even the envoy of death just confirmed that there was no one currently present in the world to be able to do it. Also, there was no certainty about how long it would take, because no one had the luxury to wait for 1,000 years either. So the only remained option was that there needed to be an entity with at least the strength of a demigod. Deities and gods couldn't do it since they were shunned by Vantria and, at most, could only possess a vessel for a time being. Hence, Khan outright claimed that he and Argos had the potential to surpass that rank. But even the god-beast Fenrir was aware that there hadn't even been a peak saint in the past 700 years, let alone a demigod. And if there was no other way left, then the best option was to kill Khan and join the demon god to ensure that the world was destroyed at last. So the final straw Khan could grasp while drowning was to assure god-beast Fenrir about the absolute certainty that one day, he would be able to reach that level of strength. And just a few minutes ago, the old man had confirmed that he had met and escaped from the grasp of the ginormous beast in front of them. Hence, Khan revealed his trump card even if the trump card itself did not wish to be revealed. And right after Khan revealed Rathnar's soul projection, The god-beast itself quickly recognized it. "So it's you again, Rathnar," said Fenrir with a perplexed countenance. Even though hesitantly, the former peak saint of Vantria replied respectfully. "It's been a while, Lord Fenrir," said the first emperor of the Rakos Empire. "I had such high hopes from you, Rathnar. Yet you died during the ascension. You have disappointed me in the end, and now your soul is tied to the very man I've been waiting to kill for the past 3 centuries. If you think I will let the hero of darkness go because of that, you're mistaken," iterated the god-beast in a grim tone. "What exactly happened between you two?" asked Khan. "When I was a peak saint and killed my last chosen hero, Lord Fenrir here came looking for me. Somehow, he was aware of my existence after I became a peak saint. Something that even an elder dragon or an archangel can't do. He sought me out to find a way to die," revealed Rathnar, a hidden past that wasn't ever recorded in history books. "The reason why I used the word survived before is because we didn't fight at all. Instead, I was at his mercy all the time. Yet he chose to let me go because he saw the potential of me becoming a demigod in the future," revealed the old man. "Now do you understand why I said that even having the relics of demigods wouldn't assure your ascension? The last person I saw using one was this man, and I still remember the disappointment I felt after hearing that he died," responded god-beast Fenrir. His gaze then landed on Khan. "There is no way for you to escape, child. Even if you say nonsense like how you can use this man's help to become a demigod, I shall not let you go," stated the god-beast firmly. "Wait, there's much to know before you make that decision. If you let me give you a proper explanation, even you would feel inclined to let me live," said Khan as he decided to reveal some key factors to ensure that the god-beast would feel satisfied. Soon, for the next 30 minutes, Khan laid out some facts about how he killed the hero of fire, absorbed his divine key, and now has access to the peninsula created by god of fire, Hetrax. After his divine key was awakened, his next destination was to leave for the Hesperides, where he could enter the trials, get his limit broken, and acquire the apples of Eden. Since he had 2 places, he would get 4 of them and make certain that he becomes a demigod, since just 2 were enough to make him a peak saint once he had his limit broken, not just once but twice. "I will give the Vulcan Empire one of those apples of Eden to bring them on our side during the Great War that's to come. However, I will still have enough to become a demigod," he explained. "That is a big risk for me to believe that it would happen. Besides, this conclave of heroes, where your kind has gone to break the limits, why I haven't heard it before?" asked godbeast Fenrir with a suspicious tone. "That's because it has happened only 4 times in the past 3,000 years and has been hidden from the eyes of the world. The empires that served the gods and goddesses have kept it a secret even from their own population till now," explained Khan. "It is true, beast. Although I have nothing to do with it, I know the deity who oversees it," spoke Jiasung Saja. Godbeast Fenrir's ears perked as he stated firmly, "I do not trust you, child, but I trust him. As the envoy of death, he cannot lie," spoke the godbeast Fenrir with a stoic voice. "However, that is still not enough to convince me. How can I believe that the so-called apple of Eden that you speak of is enough to give you the power required to become a demigod? Do you even know what the conditions are?" asked Fenrir mockingly. "It was right then, Lord Fenrir. I know it. As a matter of fact, I found the last condition because I failed and died during the ascension," said the peak saint quickly. Godbeast Fenrir was shocked and quickly asked, "Is that so? Then tell me what they are," he commanded in a domineering tone. "That I do not know. Please look closer into my soul," said Rathnar. Fenrir took some time to analyze the soul projection. "This is a half-soul," he spoke with a disgruntled tone. "Yes, to protect the secret, I hid it in another part of my soul. After returning from Hesperides, we wish to acquire it and help Khan become a demigod," revealed Rathnar. "Still not enough," exclaimed Fenrir, his patience running thin. It was right then Khan spoke to himself.
Ah, martial empereur.
"You diabolical mastermind. You knew this was going to happen even if the timeline was changed, didn't you? That's why you took it that day, said Khan, amazed at the original Khan's foresight. This shall be able to convince you then, said Khan, and the next moment, he summoned a giant golden orb in his hand. Now, do you think it will be enough? Asked Khan. The giant orb, sized that of a watermelon, exuding an aura of divinity and an immeasurable source of world energy. It was the apple of Eden that Martial Emperor took from none other than the hero of time. Out of nowhere, Khan took out and displayed the apple of Eden to the god-beast Fenrir. He revealed this immeasurable source of world energy, something all the empires would wage a war for, just to convince the mighty beast in front of them. Martial Emperor must have planned for this. Means, in the original timeline, he met god-beast Fenrir years later but survived using other means. In this timeline, he knew that I would be forced to reveal the apple of Eden. Does that mean the god-beasts were planning to join the demon god in the original timeline as well? Thought Khan to himself. Thankfully, it didn't happen. Otherwise, no one would have survived that long. I do not know how he escaped, but he must have kept the apple with me to achieve a different outcome this time. He concluded, knowing how the original him planned things with a broad perspective. This is enough to help you become a peak 8th stage saint and might even help him become a beginner 9th stage saint within a year, said Fenrir with a bemused tone, his fiery eyes unable to hide his surprise. How many did you say you were going to have in total? He asked. I'm giving away one, but I should still have 4 of them in the end, replied Khan. Next, the god-beast spoke with a thoughtful voice. Just 2 will be enough. 3 will make sure you become a demigod. The power is simply too much even for saints. I even feel like devouring it, but it will be too big a waste since my hunger will be quelled only for a few months. You, on the other hand, will be able to ascend with certainty. He stated with all honesty. With Lord Argos around, he might as well become another demigod if we are lucky. Spoke Khan. It was right then. God-beast Fenrir looked at Argos Belmont. Are you going to tell him, or should I? Said God-beast Fenrir. Argos gently placed his hand over Khan's left shoulder and shook his head. I have hit my limit already. At most, I will be able to become a peak saint naturally in a century or 2. My life would be extended by a couple more centuries, but becoming a demigod is not possible for me. That is why it should be used only by you, spoke the vampire sovereign. Rathnar also chimed in. He is correct, boy. Eldritch vampires have a far stronger bloodline and great growth potential. But their souls are another matter. They can be considered on par with the royal true demon bloodline. But there has never been a deity of vampire lineage because of that very reason. Their talent and bodies are far superior, but their souls are even weaker than a normal human. The world offers 2 things but at least takes one away, just like it does with all the other species. You're the only exception here because you come from a different world. Elaborated Rathnar. The extra apple of Eden, maybe save it for someone else and use it when the time is right. Because after becoming a demigod, you won't need any source of world energy at all, said Jiasung Saja. What? Demigods use different kinds of power? Asked Khan with a surprised face. The more you learn, replied the envoy. God-beast Fenrir said in response. After you become a demigod, the power contained in this apple of Eden will be absorbed within a few months, but you won't become any stronger. It is useful only below the peak saint rank. And the very next moment, the god-beast took a deep breath and paused his words as he looked at the opposite side. I'm convinced. Finally, the god-beast Fenrir had come to terms with Khan's proposal and decided to spare his life. Do not mistake us for mere oversized beasts, hero of darkness. We have lived far too long. We know and have experienced a lot of things in life. We have outlived many like elder dragons and archangels. Even the original 3 primordial species did not live as long as our kind. The relic you hold with you, even its creator didn't live past 1,000,000 years before he had no choice but to become a deity. That is how old we are, said the god-beast in a regal tone. But unlike how the world or civilizations of any era portray us, we god beasts cherish life the most. He divulged a hidden truth. We are accursed beings for seeking out the ultimate greed in the name of achieving the pinnacle of strength. And it comes with a price of its own. He spoke with a somber voice. God beast by who? He erodes the world around him. Plants, water, sand, metal, mana, world energy. He destroys it without even willing to. He hasn't touched anyone, or felt the gentleness of grass below his feet. He is the antithesis to nature itself, spoke Fenrir with a sympathetic tone. I, on the other hand, my powers devour everything around me. It doesn't discriminate and will hurt even those whom I do not wish to harm. That is why I do not even have an underling to guard the borders of my territory, because they die as soon as they feel my aura. All of you also would have all been devoured, your bodies, your powers, and even your souls, engulfed by me before you could even see me. Back then, Rathnar barely managed to live because he was already a peak saint, and I was greatly restraining myself. And at this moment, all of you are alive solely because of the barrier created by the envoy of death. He explained how his own powers worked. Yet my hunger never stops. It just doesn't end, no matter how much I feed it, said the god beast in a nostalgic and regretful tone. That snake, although I hate him, his life is no different than mine. He can't feel emotions, can't taste anything. He lives in a perpetual state of wanting to live, to feel something, and at the same time wanting to die and end his suffering. He is like a moving corpse brimming with power and life. Yet he doesn't feel anything at all, he explained. The rock, that bird's curse is that he can't stay on the ground for more than an hour. If he does, he has to keep flying for 10 more days before he can land again. It doesn't matter if his wings have fallen or he is tired, he is forced to live that punishment till he dies. And once he dies, he gets reincarnated again and then forced to fly for months this time. His territory is filled with barren lands and deserts because nothing lasts there due to how strong the winds he produces while flying. He iterated, shedding light on another god beast's torment. And then there's Behemoth. I almost pity him. Even though most of our powers don't work on him, he is the one suffering the most. He spoke with empathy. He carries so much weight around that his body, despite being a god beast, is constantly crushed from the inside. His organs get squashed and then healed again and again. And the worst part is that he can only move 10 kilometers of distance whenever he wakes up. But the biggest torment is that he wakes up only once a year for a single day. And he is forced to slumber for the rest of the year as his body is getting crushed and swollen while his bones shatter and he experiences excruciating pain all the time. He explained with a crestfallen gaze. Compared to him, all of us feel lucky sometimes. God beast Fenrir then looked at Khan and spoke. Why do you think I'm telling you all this, hero of darkness? Khan wanted to say something, but he couldn't. As someone who had experienced a lot of these ailments during his training, he could relate to their suffering. However, Khan's torment ended a long time ago. But all the god beasts, they were enduring it for more than 2 million years already. Some of them could be even older than Fenrir, and God knows how long they have lived this hellish life. I want you to understand what is at stake here. If I let you go, I'm not only giving up our chance at freedom, but also extending our torment on a mere hope that you somehow succeed and become a demigod to end our lives one day. You have shown me a possibility that I wish would come true. But if it fails, I'm continuing our pitiful lives to who knows how long. He explained with a pained countenance. We do not hate this world or want to destroy all the living beings. All the god beasts value life far more because we ourselves yearn for a normal life and death. It's just that our pain and the price we have to pay is beyond anything anyone in this world can endure. He iterated with a firm tone. I will let you go on a condition that you make a soul oath with me, that you will either become a demigod within a decade and kill us, or bring us worthy challengers who can take my place in exchange for your life. He said in a domineering tone. Khan understood the gravity of the situation. He would get to live, but also carry another great burden on his shoulder. Just that he had 20 years to end the war with the demon god. Here, it would be only 10 years to become a demigod or find the god-beasts worthy successors. I accept, said Khan, resolute in his tone. Khan wasn't rushing in because he had no other choice, or his back was pushed against the wall. At this time, he knew how great a responsibility it was. Jiasung Saja then carried on a soloth ritual between them. The one to officiate this vow of life was none other than the envoy of death. 1 hour later. Good. Now leave. He is coming. And he won't reason with any of you either. I can stall him for 3 days at most, spoke God-beast Fenrir with a serious tone, preparing to fight something malicious. Who's coming? Asked Khan. God-beast Fenrir's expression turned cold, and his aura also erupted with malignant killing intent. God-beast Basilisk. 3 days later, at Mach 2 speed, the flying ancient rank ship flew past the clouds while avoiding any further confrontation along the way after their encounter with the god-beast Fenrir. And the reason for doing so was that the god-beast Basilisk was chasing after them. Though Fenrir must have stalled it and must have had a ferocious battle with the latter, everyone knew that, given how fast god-beasts were despite their size, they needed to leave the Abyss Forest's borders before the Titanic Serpent caught their trail. Basilisk and Fenrir, both god-beasts made into Earth's mythology. Their battle in Vantria, neither Khan nor anyone else traveling with him was even worthy to witness it. Because forget looking, they would die even if they stayed a few hundred kilometers away from their battle due to the unknown powers they had unleashed. And if Khan and the company hadn't found Jiasung Saja, the envoy of death, they might probably have been dead a long time ago too. The power that god-beasts, elder dragons, archangels, demigods, and deities used must have been a well-kept secret since even Rathnar hadn't mentioned it. Or maybe it could be that the half-soul Khan had with him simply didn't possess those memories, just like it didn't know about Rathnar's skills and his means to become a demigod. Their secret power couldn't instantly shatter domains even if it came from someone like Vildred and Argos. Now that I think about it, something feels oddly suspicious, thought Khan. The secret power was beyond anything that world energy could do because even the Rainbow Serpent could oppose Khan's space law as if the rules of reality did not apply to him. It was only a mythical rank monster despite its strength. How did it nullify my space law in the first place? He questioned himself. The Rainbow Serpent wasn't even a god-beast but just an underling of one. What kind of enlightenment or knowledge did it possess to even break Khan's space law? The powerful affinity to natural elements shouldn't have allowed it to oppose the space law. And God-beast Baihu as well as God-beast Fenrir. The aura surrounding them didn't even feel like it belonged to this world or even the multidimensional essence like Khan's cosmic ether. So finding the truth about that secret power was also a paramount priority for the future's sake. Because if he were ever facing any of these beings with access to those secret powers, he would at least have some intel on how to avoid or escape from them. There are so many secrets that I need to uncover, or else I won't survive next time, concluded Khan. As for the deal he made with Fenrir, it was a necessity, because if Khan couldn't find a way, imagine what would happen if the god-beasts joined the demon god in the upcoming Great War. Martial Emperor didn't tell me about this either. Was it not that they joined the demon god in the original timeline or just that he simply chose not to reveal it to me? He wondered. Preserving the flow of the timeline could be considered as the major factor here since the original Khan chose to tell him the most important ones that wouldn't change the timeline too far. Shock? It was right then that it struck Khan. He knew it. He knew that just like in the original timeline, I would meet the envoy of death and Fenrir. The last time, he must have either run away with Jiasung Saja's help, but now that I have different divine abilities and even subordinates, he was hoping that I would make some kind of deal with the god-beast. He even precisely kept the hero of Time's Apple of Eden for that exact moment so I could make a valid proposal and have something to back my claim. Thought Khan to himself after further analyzing the past events. Does he want me to kill them and stop their involvement in the future? Something he couldn't do in the original timeline? Or does he want me to become allies with them and turn the tide of the battle? Questioned Khan to himself. There were multiple possibilities, and the right way couldn't be decided on either. The god-beasts do not want to destroy the world, but they all wish to die for real. And currently, I'm not even strong enough to survive their auras, let alone fight them. Thought Khan with a solemn countenance as the ship reached the horizon. Even if I somehow use my subordinates to kill them and merge with the bloodlines of the god beasts, wouldn't I be basically condemning my trusted allies to a life full of torments? He asked himself. Omega, Oliver, Rudra, the three of them have the bloodlines of the god beasts and may become powerful in the future to fight the god beasts and take their place. But others like Blackwell, Ronan, Cyril, Tobias, Armin, they simply have very distinguished and incompatible bloodlines to merge with them at this point. Besides, the bloodlines of primordial titans and true demons are simply opposing in nature towards the god-beast bloodlines. Even with the system's assistance, it just won't be possible to kill them and merge with my subordinates. He iterated why it seemed simply impossible. Sigh. Creating new subordinates with appropriate bloodline and even then, waiting for them to become a being comparable to god beasts. It will take decades even if I provide them with the best resources. Also, not all of them will even have the possible chance since none of them will be an apostle of a deity or have reached enlightenment and unlocked these different laws of nature and reality. Even I can't touch these beings, let alone my subordinates. Hoping for assured victory is simply pointless. Concluded Khan as he sighed. Besides, they are placeholders in Vantria, beings that must exist for some reason unknown. Even if the god beasts are killed, would I be able to control my subordinates after they take the former's place? There are simply too many questions and dangerous risks that I can't even foresee at the moment. 10 years. I don't think that's enough. He thought with visible helplessness on his face. As per Martial Emperor, the Great War had been going on for somewhere between 12 to 16 years before he killed the hero of time and had to return to the past. And even then, he had only faced the Demon Emperor, and their fight ended in a draw. In contrast, when the heroes faced the Demon God, they barely survived, including the original Khan. So the extent of their powers and secrets surrounding god beasts and demigods, I need to find it. I simply don't have enough information regarding these matters at all. And I hate leading blind into a war when I have no information about my enemies, their strengths and weaknesses. I hope once I return to the Rocco's Empire, I can find some answers. The next time I meet God of Darkness, I will have to make plans for every possibility. Spoke Khan to himself as he settled new goals that he must accomplish later when the time was right. The following day, the sunlight in the morning felt different as soon as Khan and the others crossed the borders of the Abyss Forest and safely returned to the Rocco's Empire. A month's journey might feel short, but it was mentally draining on all of them and felt like years. Despite being some of the strongest people in the world, all they could do was just run and hide in the Abyss Forest. At every step, they were forced to face the jaws of death, and only through fortuitous encounters and coincidences did they manage to come back alive. Rumble, rumble. The invisible Bran Castle came forth above the skies of Flavit City. I have a few things to discuss with my vassals. You can go ahead. I will join you in Rathna soon, said Argos as he was welcomed by his knights and saints. Blip. The Vampire King took the flying ship artifact back into his space ring and flew at the entrance of the flying castle. I shall join the Great Guardian for the time being, cult leader. I'm sure you have important matters to deal with going forward. I hope that you could finish them soon before we depart for the Abyss Empire, spoke Morrigan as she bowed before Khan respectfully. Khan nodded silently, and then the High Priestess of the Cult of Darkborn followed behind Argos. Whoosh! Whoosh! Khan and Vildred then flew down and visited a guest house owned by Nikola and Elenev. For the time being, Albestros had been waiting for their return for a reason. In the same building owned by the merchants, where Khan slept on a bed for the first time in his new life, he met the three people who were there during his beginning in Vantria. So, have you succeeded in achieving everything I told you? Asked Khan to the old man Albestros. There was some resistance at first, but you, being the new emperor, helped convince everyone by a lot, replied the old blacksmith. Good. When we begin the plans, I want both of you to work with Albestros. Your merchant company will basically handle all the material transportation, merchandise, and supplies. Don't worry about the manpower or authority. You are my people, people that I can trust," said Khan with a content expression. "This, Your Majesty, is too big for people like us. We are but a small merchant company. This operation is thousands of times bigger than anything we've ever worked with. I don't think we have enough qualifications to do it," spoke Elenek, his eyes hesitant. "What do you think?" asked Khan to Nicola. "Can be done. I didn't have my hair turn white for nothing. But I worry that Your Majesty might get accused of favoritism," replied the old man. "It's not favoritism, though it could be considered as repayment of the help you both offered me back in the day. I want your company to do it because you guys are the natives of this city. Unlike some officials or big corporations from the capital, you know this region and its people. It's better to have you both act as the spearhead in this operation instead of trusting some acclaimed figure," spoke Khan. Thud, thud. Both Nicola and Elenev knelt in front of Khan. "We shall not disappoint you, Your Majesty," spoke both in unison. Khan, in return, let out a contented smile. As for his plans for the Flavit city, he was going to turn it into a stronghold, and for what reason, that remained to be seen. 2 days later, Khan and Vildred returned to Rathna, the capital of the Rakos Empire. They secretly entered the imperial palace without anyone having the slightest idea, since the emperor was supposed to have never left the palace after his coronation. "I will take some rest. After fighting the rainbow serpent and facing those god beasts, I feel like I need to reinvent my understanding of magic. Thanks to that experience, though as dreary as it was, I can feel my limits reaching beyond the wall I couldn't overcome before. I need peace for some time," spoke the lightning dragon emperor. Khan agreed, since he, too, felt that their short visit to the Abyss Forest had opened him to a new and unknown world. A sage like Vildred was bound to have an epiphany of some sort after going through something like that. So he understood his master's hurry. Swoosh! After Vildred entered the Tablet of Arcana to do some secluded training, Khan returned to the Imperial Throne Hall. He appeared before the copy of himself left behind and absorbed the memories from his cosmic replica. Soon, everything that happened in his absence was etched into his memory. To summarize, the previous decision regarding Mr. Rodick announcing in front of the Empire that they were hiring new government employees for about 40 million posts across several branches of the government and military had caused an upheaval at the beginning of the week. But after the hiring procedure actually started, the response was overwhelming, and the public had put Khan's name in the spotlight. Some people who already got the jobs due to their experience in the field they applied for started naming their newborn children after Khan. As it turned out, there was no shortage of talented, literate, qualified people with both real-life and academic experience for the majority of these sectors and government institutions. Just that most of them were simply not given the chance, their scores being undervalued, and despite their eligibility, the posts were given to those who bribed the officials under the table. Many of these people were waiting for years, hoping for a successful chance where they could prove their competence and change their lives. A lot of them had already given up due to the corrupt system, despite having everything it took and needed for these positions, and were not hired. But they were forced to find other means of survival so they could make a living and feed their families. A wolfkin with a 4-meter-tall body was somehow undeserving of being a patrol guard according to the old regime, but under Khan's new regime, if they had what it took to get the job done, they would be hired. On the 3rd week, however, the hiring process became hectic because certain species like demihumans, orcs, ogres, thralls, and many others had basically monopolized the hiring procedure, using their species traits to get certain types of jobs since the criteria mentioned those traits and experience in those fields. It was then that the Khan left behind in the capital intervened and started conducting tests such as physical compatibility, written exams, practical knowledge, vivas, and interviews of the candidates across the empire. With the hiring procedure getting even thorough than before, adding more difficulties and extra steps to weed out the abusers, people trying to take advantage of the rules were taken aback. He made sure that undeserving people wouldn't get to use the rules against Khan's intentions. Because nobody wanted a thug, regardless of their species or gender, to act as a lawman and abuse their authority. Otherwise, it would make Khan's new reign no different than how the noble factions controlled the empire before. And as a result, many were culled out, and those who tried to use the new system for their benefit yielded nothing. And as a promise, to quell the discontent of those who were affected due to this exploitation, Khan allowed them to apply them again. As for those who did get hired, he gave all of them half of the first month's salary so they could not only feel assured, but also provide for their families. Just receiving half was more than enough to convince the entire population that Khan wasn't just trying to butter up the masses. And many, who needed money for survival, were thankful for this gesture. In a way, it bought Khan their instant loyalty since the majority of these applicants were already struggling in their lives. And now, they wished to serve Khan's new imperial rule with their whole heart. Step. A lean and green-skinned, slender figure, dressed in a black business suit, wearing glasses, walked in front of Khan while being escorted by the royal guards. Khan gestured for the guards to leave, and the person bowed respectfully in front of Khan. The person in front of him was none other than Sirius Blake. Sirius had already received a telepathic transmission from Khan after he entered Rathna, so the former had come to hand out some important documents. What about our reserves? Can we fund the war without taxing the common population back to 30%? Queried Khan. Sirius replied with a calm demeanor, "Your idea about selling the assets of most of these noble factions and clans, most of which they were illegally holding by using the names of shell corporations and people who don't even exist, turns out that a lot of people were interested in buying them. Some of them, such as processing facilities and farming lands, we acquired those for the 7 deadly sins. And to put that money in circulation, we held fake auctions and even used some investment firms as a front to make the purchase legit on paper. When the time for war comes, we can control a lot of these lands, factories, and warehouses for storage, production of food supplies, and even weapon manufacturing. Some assets can also be used as buildings for medical care after a soldier gets hurt. There's the full report," iterated Sirius and handed out the brown cover book. Khan read it and looked at Sirius. "You've really gotten good at this since the time I went away." Sirius gloated with a gleeful smile and bowed. What the Green Orc accountant told him before was just the surface-level information. The real deal followed after. As Khan read the entire report, he was simply amazed at how covertly Sirius was turning the black money into white. His ways were far more obscure and innovative to the point Khan even thought of himself as a rookie despite being an accountant himself in his previous life. "Well done. With this, even if we raised the taxes again, we won't have to go beyond 18%, am I right?" asked Khan. But Sirius, on the other end, made a gesture with his palm, lowering it down. 17%? Sirius shook his head again. 15%? asked Khan in disbelief. Sirius finally shook his head up and down joyfully. "Gasp!" Khan gasped in surprise. "Forget doubling the taxes as per his assumption." Sirius brought it to half of his expected value. Even Khan thought that once the war started and the Rakos Empire was involved, they would have to raise the taxes back to 30%. But Sirius, with his bookkeeping and money laundering expertise, brought it to half of it. And this was just the first month of the work. Once they had command over the remainder of these noble clans and factions' hidden assets and money, the resultant amount would basically help them fund the war for at least 3 to 4 years to come. Khan then let out a pleasant sigh. "Carry on the good work. I will meet you again soon," said Khan and got up from his throne. "Where are you heading off to, Your Majesty?" asked Sirius. Khan replied nonchalantly with a pleased countenance. "To meet my other half." 1 month ago, after Khan left Flavit City to enter the Abyss Forest through the southern border of the Rakos Empire, Cassandra returned to the capital, Rathna. The last few weeks had been nothing but unexpected upheaval for her. The man she had fallen in love with had finally returned after so long, and she learned about many things that basically shook her entire existence. Khan turned out to be none other than one of the heroes who were nothing but myths to them at this point. The fact that she, too, became a 5th-stage saint during that time, a phenomenon unprecedented in the history of the Rakos Empire, was already too unfathomable to her. Thankfully, She had the special ability to completely erase her saint pressure to the point that even a 7th stage saint couldn't tell her exact rank. It not only helped her in getting revenge but also improved her skills over time without having to worry about people asking too many questions. And after Khan returned and heard the truth from him, that she was not even supposed to be alive at this point, given what happened in the original timeline that was now erased, her fate was no longer tied to any kind of predetermined destiny. A life that was never meant to be came with its own freedom. And after Khan's return and him becoming the new emperor of the Rocco's empire, Cassandra also found her own place in the world. She had killed everyone involved in the betrayal she suffered from all those years ago, except her own parents. Cassandra could not find it in her heart to end their lives with her own hands. However, she had decided to torment them most fittingly, to bind them and make all of the Michelson clan into her servants. And with the ancient rank spell taught by Vildred, the former Dragon Emperor, it basically made them into their god who could sniff out their lives any moment it wanted. 1 week later, inside the western area of the innermost parts of the capital, Rathna, a flourishing city full of mansions, luxurious hotels, and well-maintained markets, was situated. To ordinary citizens, it would appear to be a high-class residential area where the top 1% reside. But in reality, it was just the main headquarters of one of the strongest clans of the empire, the Michelson clan of the neutral faction. In the northern region of the city, there was a pearl-white castle that felt like it touched the sky if anyone saw it from below, and this towering castle itself felt like it was part of some fairy tale. A lake surrounded this beautiful castle, and waterfalls at the other end of this piece of great architecture gave it a majestic yet soul-soothing appearance if one looked from afar. Flocks of blue crane-like birds passed by, and the vast greenery around this 5-kilometer-long ginormous castle looked simply heavenly. And in the main hall of this castle, with hundreds of people seated on the sides, was a hearing taking place. At the end, there was a pristine white and golden throne where a woman with raven-black battlemage attire sat while folding her legs and a bemused expression on her countenance. "What is it now?" asked the woman, resting her back against the throne, partially exasperated. Among the attendees were the former clan leader and the lady of the clan. Damon Michelson and Rainia Michelson were present in the hall along with the rest of the elders and all the key members of the clan. All these people were at least in a key leading position in all the branches spread across the empire, consisting of millions of people. And the fact that they were present altogether meant that the topic of discussion was pivotal to their whole clan's future. "No one will ever acknowledge you just because you have bound our lives to your will. You may have compliance but never trust or respect," said Damon to Cassandra, openly opposing her reign. "Ha!" Cassandra snarled and responded with a curt voice. "Trust and respect. I had those for you as a child. But in the meantime, when I was preparing for my revenge, I had some quiet time to think about a few things as I bade for the right opportunities." Cassandra's tone turned cold, yet she maintained her calm demeanor. "And during this self-retrospection, even the memories that my mind blurred out while growing up have resurfaced in the past couple of years. I realized that I was never truly your child," she declared without hesitation. Gasp! The people in the hall, many of whom were saints, opened their eyes in disbelief. "Sure, you and Mother may have brought me into this world, but not a single thing either of you did has earned yourselves the right to be called a parent. Let me ask you this, and I hope that you answer it honestly." She spoke as her eyes turned vengeful. "You never wanted to have me, didn't you?" She looked at her father, Damon, and mother, Rainia. "Your brother was far as talented a swordsman, and everyone had basically decided to back him up as the new clan heir. He was the most promising candidate of his generation. His achievements during the time he served in the military brought more pride and fame for the Michelson clan than you ever did. People renowned him as the #1 swordsman in the empire for decades, while your father, despite being a rank above him and a couple of decades older than him, felt threatened by his popularity and glory." She iterated with no reservation. This was a history known to many, but no one dared to speak about it for many years. "And I fought Uncle Stranoff myself. Even as a peak 4th stage saint, He gave me someone who could summon a literal deity during the battle run for her money. If not for me becoming a fifth-stage saint myself, I would have never made it out alive. She stated firmly as she acknowledged her uncle's caliber as a warrior. Cassandra then took a pause and spoke again. And you were afraid that once he became a fifth-stage saint, the sway you have as the clan leader would dwindle in upcoming years. So it all came down to us, the children who would show more promise for the future of the Michelson clan, said Cassandra. The Elders' Council would support you or him based on how talented your children were, to nurture the future leaders conveniently. That has always been the law of the Michelson clan, set by the founding ancestor, said Cassandra, revealing the man who set the rules that decided their lives even to this day. Lesrin Michelson, the first sage of the Rocco's empire. Cassandra mentioned the name of the man whom Khan had met only for a short moment in the Flavit city. Yet his doctrine was still followed earnestly till the very day among his descendants. Talent triumphs over bloodline, hierarchy, or even legacy. She revealed the motto of their clan set since its founding. However, without her knowledge, his set of rules had been dictating her life ever since she was born. This was also one of the reasons why Cassandra no longer wanted anyone to compare her to Lesrin Michelson. And once I was born, your hopes almost shattered because it wasn't a boy who could carry your name or lineage, since the elders have always preferred men to lead the clan. The elders wouldn't acknowledge someone without direct blood ties, so you couldn't adopt a son either. Your only saving grace was that Uncle Stronov also had a daughter himself. So Veronica and I would be your assurance for the claim based on who showed more promise. She revealed the behind-the-scenes politics. As I grew up, you made sure that I became the representative of your reign as the new clan leader. Growing up all those years, I yearned for your love, your acknowledgement. But now that I think about it, both of you were just brainwashing me. She iterated firmly. You both would say that you love me, or that you're proud of me, only when I achieved something. It made me want to become stronger, devote myself to learning magic, and learn everything that you wanted to teach me so that you would have the elders' support. It was only when I became the first one among the candidates who reached the master rank over a decade ago that you became the clan leader with no opposition. The position left vacant after grandfather's death was finally filled by you. And without knowing, both I and Veronica competed against each other, despite growing so closely since childhood, she said with a regretful voice. Cassandra then spoke coldly. I was never your daughter. I was just an instrument for your ascent in the power struggle. Something you could never accomplish on your own. You used the laws of the clan to get what you wanted. And even if I hadn't lost my powers back then, you would just marry me off to someone who would bend their knee in front of you. And my future son would be your successor. But never me. Never me. She said with both grief in her tone but also disdain on her face. Cassandra looked at Veronica, who sat on one of the chairs across the hall. Dear cousin, I understand why you abandoned me just like everyone else. But you were no different than me. A mere pawn of our fathers so they could climb the ladder of their ambitions, declared Cassandra with a resolute tone. I know that you hate me for killing your father, but know that if he was alive, he would treat you no differently than mine. And if you think I'm making this up, look at this. She spoke and summoned a golden cube out of her space ring. It was a recording artifact used only by the most prestigious clans because it was simply too advanced to mass-produce. Soon, a battlefield appeared in the middle of the hall akin to a 3D holographic projection. This was the footage of Cassandra's battle against her uncle, Stronov Michelson. After some time had passed, the battle stopped at the point where Stronov admitted that he was also planning to trade Veronica to Khan just to make him his son-in-law. He didn't even ask for his daughter's consent or show any confidence in her capabilities to succeed him. No, he simply treated her like livestock that even peasants wouldn't barter for. Shock? This can't be, spoke Veronica with shock. Her body shuddered in disbelief, and she dropped to the ground, grabbing her head as tears trickled from her blue eyes. It was only this moment that she too was systematically brainwashed just like Cassandra to believe her father. She didn't even question the authenticity of the footage because she recognized her father's original voice, his mannerisms, and also his battle stance that she had grown up watching all those years. The fact that if roles were reversed, her father, Stronov Michelson, would have basically sold her off in a political marriage just to get Khan, a more promising successor instead of her, to achieve his goals, shattered her soul. All this time, you and I were living a life of deception, cast by our own blood. Yet, we were nothing but mere tools in a place that would have never acknowledged our efforts and discarded our lives the moment we no longer served their purpose. Iterated Cassandra sternly. Even the other attendees, key members of the clan, could not raise their heads because they knew it was the ultimate truth. Many of them were subjects of the same indoctrination and also became the heads of their branch clans by surpassing their siblings. But now, none of them shared any bond with their own blood. It started as a competition for the claim of the heir position, but turned into a blood feud over the years. Some had also shunned their own brothers and sisters out of the clan just to maintain their authority after becoming the head. One could only question whether their lives would be different, and maybe they would have a happier relationship with their siblings if they didn't have to fight for the titles. You can choose to hate me, cousin, or you can cast out these bindings and join me in reigning this clan, which never saw us more than expendable toys for this politics. Spoke Cassandra sternly. Minutes passed by, and Veronica finally made her decision. Step. Veronica got up as she made up her mind. The previous contempt towards Cassandra was gone, and her own mind seemed to be clear. Even her eyes felt vibrant for the first time after Cassandra took command of the clan. Although she never truly hated Cassandra, when the calamity struck, she chose to run away because she, too, was blinded by her loyalty to her father, believing that he would one day truly love her and acknowledge her. But at this moment, she also broke free from the invisible shackles that had bound her entire life. Thump! Veronica thumped her sword on the ground as she faced Cassandra, her cousin, whom she thought was no different than her older sister up until those events 5 years ago. Now, she proudly stood in front of Cassandra's throne and knelt like a knight. I, Veronica Michelson, swear my loyalty to you, my lady. She spoke with a resolute tone. No, not lady. But quickly, she stumbled in her words and reiterated her proclamation, looking at the raven sorceress with eyes filled with respect. Matriarch Cassandra, Veronica Michelson, one of the new generation prodigies of the Michelson clan, let go of her grudge and instead swore her fealty to Cassandra, the very person who killed her father. One could say that her actions were no different than committing the patricide herself. That instead of seeking revenge, she was now willingly choosing to serve the murderer. However, Veronica did not reach that decision just because Cassandra showed her the recorded footage of her father's last words. No, her decision came from a deep-rooted suspicion that had been lingering for quite a few years now. The most notable incident was when she fought Con Salvatore during the semifinals of the Emperor's Chosen tournament over 6 years ago and lost. But instead of consoling her shaken mind from the defeat, the first words her father spoke were, "Because you didn't have any chance of winning to begin with." Back then, those words had stung Veronica deeply, but she could not retort or show any displeasure since she had lost in front of the entire empire, watching their battle. But what bewildered her the most wasn't him praising Khan to be the better among the two. Instead, Stronov Michelson expressed his wish to make Khan his direct disciple. In their clan, an outsider becoming a direct disciple was akin to accepting that person as a ward or a family member. That was the only justifiable way to pass down their clan's teachings and the master's unique battle arts. Even Veronica herself, despite being Stronov's daughter, was not qualified back then. This had basically shattered her self-esteem, which was already bruised after losing to Khan in front of her father and the other clan members. For the first time, she questioned whether her father truly loved and cared for her. Yet, the wounds were reopened again, as almost 8 months later, Cassandra lost her powers after fighting beside Khan against the legendary monster called Caladrius, while trying to avenge their late cousin, Isaac Michelson, the result of which was known to everyone present in the main hall of the clan. Cassandra was soon traded off to Khan like a bartering object, just so they could have him join the Michelson clan as their son-in-law. Veronica was greatly disturbed after that incident, since she wondered whether it was she who lost their powers to avenge Isaac, her cousin whom she had grown up with since childhood, and whose lifeless body she held in her arms that day. Would her fate be any different? 5 years ago, she not only gave up on Cassandra, but chose to betray herself. Though they were cousins, Cassandra and Veronica were no different than sisters growing up. The politics between their fathers and the elders hadn't affected their lives until Cassandra lost her powers. And it was then, her father was promoting her as the sole heir to lead the clan's future. What Veronica felt towards Cassandra wasn't some hidden jealousy or animosity that lingered within her heart for years. No, it was fear. Fear that if she does not prove herself useful to her father and the elders, she too would be traded off, just like a mere pawn in a political marriage, despite spending her entire life trying to prove herself. It was this very fear that helped her break the limitations and finally become a saint in the following couple of years. However, it was also during that time when Cassandra's powers returned, and she too became a first-stage saint. But at this point, their relationship and bond as sisters had basically disappeared. They were no longer siblings, but competitors. Just like those before them, they only lived to meet the expectations of others and tried to surpass each other, lest they wanted to become a discarded tool. What she didn't know was that Cassandra was far stronger and had been hiding her real strength all this time. So when Khan returned and Cassandra revealed that she killed Stronov a couple of weeks ago, it turned her world upside down. The pain of losing a parent whom you tried to appease your whole life. The pain of watching your world crumble and your future being uncertain despite all your efforts. It was simply too overwhelming for Veronica. But today, after Cassandra showed her the truth, the reality finally struck her. That even if she had managed to surpass Cassandra and become the next official heir, her role would be no different than a puppet, used and then discarded by her father and the elders of the clan just to gain control in the game of dominance. Hence, she quickly accepted the reality and chose to swear her loyalty to Cassandra, the person who had suffered the same consequences, in some cases worse, just like her. Only those who share the same pain, the misery, and life-changing events can truly resonate and understand each other on an emotional level indescribable by words. The Veronica Michelson of the moment was no longer just some pawn. She was Cassandra's knight, the one who would be the blade that cuts down those who oppose the matriarch's rule. As the month went by, a clan-wise purge began. Those who refused to submit to Cassandra's new reign were either imprisoned or straight-up executed. Since Khan had still kept the nobility functional in the Rocco's empire, the government could not interfere, and neither the imperial rule chose to do so. Cassandra was now feared by those who chose to stick to the dogma and accepted by those who saw the flaws of their clan's rules that had been haunting them for centuries. The change would obviously take some time to settle, but many finally saw a new and hopeful dawn in the history of their heritage. Present day. Step. Flutter. A mysterious figure, clad in a dark gray long coat, suddenly appeared in Cassandra's bedroom at early morning. "You're back!" exclaimed Cassandra with joy as she sensed the real Khan's arrival. Due to their soul connection, she could always tell whether it was Khan's real body or a mere doppelganger, even from 300 kilometers away. And now her beloved appeared in front of her eyes. "Yes, I am. But unfortunately, we don't have much time to spend together. It's time to go," said Khan. "Go where?" asked Cassandra skeptically. "A place far, far away. And I want you there with me," said Khan with a tone filled with concern. He wanted to keep Cassandra close to him because he was cautious about the timeline's efforts to erase her existence through any means. Khan responded in a calm demeanor, as there was one final step to accomplish and finish his preparation for the Great War. The real Abyss Empire. The next morning, whoosh, swoosh, at the near border of the no man's land from the Rocco's empire side, a flying ship arrived covertly, and a group of flying saints was already waiting for them in the sky right above one of the guard posts. In total, there were 15 saints, 16 if you count a dead man's soul. Rustle, rustle. The grass on the open ground below rustled just from the exhausts of the engines of this flying ship as the deck was finally opened. A group of guards with a 4-meter-tall warrior leading them. His entire form was encased in black armor, and emerald flames danced across his body, including where his eyes should have been, replaced instead by burning fire. The warrior leading the guards was a 5th-stage saint himself. "We're ready to depart when you are, young lord," spoke the warrior of the mysterious species. The one he referred to was none other than Khan. At this moment, Khan was tagging along with Cassandra, Vildred, and all of his subordinates. For this expedition, Khan was taking all the subordinates with him, everyone who hadn't been in the limelight of the main storyline for quite some time. As for the management of the Rakos Empire, Khan left all the other saints of the empire, tied to his will via the stigmata of bloodlines, in charge of all the stations and positions to make decisions for the empire under the pretext of offering them a chance to have a better future under Khan's imperial rule. However, all of them would still be reporting to one of Khan's cosmic replicas, who has been maintaining the reign over the last month while Khan was away. The reason why Khan was taking the whole crew was that what he needed to accomplish was many times harder. However, he didn't have the time nor the will to prolong his preparations since there were only 2 months left for the Great War to officially begin. So his entourage consisted of all the 12 legendary and mythical rank subordinates, including Tobias and the other 3 that were tasked with guarding Cassandra all these years. Cassandra, on the other hand, left Veronica in charge of the Michelson clan while saying that she would be discussing and expanding the clan's influence throughout the empire with Khan's help. As for Rathnar's secret to becoming a demigod, it had been postponed, given the constraint of time, since it too would take them another month just to recover the other half of his soul. The procedure was certainly dangerous because even Rathnar had advised Khan to do it only after he became an 8th-stage saint. As for Argos, he had to make a necessary visit to the front lines of the Demon Empire and would meet them in the Belmont Kingdom directly. Morrigan would also be waiting for them there, and without the Bran Castle as their medium to fly, the journey would take them a couple of weeks. Due to the risks and lack of time to focus their attention, the knowledge about becoming a demigod would have to stay a mystery for some time. Hence, this group was led by an envoy tasked to lead them to the Belmont Kingdom. Khan and the group now stood in front of Boris, one of Lucian Varangius' generals whom Khan had already met after he visited the Belmont Kingdom the first time. The flying ship Boris could travel at Mach 2 without overheating for days. With Vildred's magic formations, it became invisible. Since there were no god beasts or unique mythical monsters to detect them anymore, their journey was secretive but also uninterrupted. Hence began Khan's new endeavor towards world peace, path filled with blood. In an unknown realm, the sun shone brightly over a pristine golden palace with dark red roof tiles. This Renaissance-style palace had many floors and plenty of room for holding banquets and small meetings between important people for important matters. In one of the most heavily guarded rooms, a man was sleeping, his body barely breathing. He was not taking an afternoon nap. Rather, he was in a coma. Outside the bedroom was an open garden where a black-haired and blue-eyed man, donning silver armor with bluish outlines, was talking to someone while sitting within a tea palace. "My lord, your claim for the official crown prince position is almost solidified, even if the emperor doesn't wake up soon. The nobles are shifting sides, and even the neutral parties have grown impatient. If we strike the iron when it's hot, we will take a massive lead over the others," spoke a middle-aged red-haired man with a long mustache, his garbs resembling a French aristocrat from Earth. Soon, they started discussing how the other faction, led by commoners, was also being swayed. "Some of them want to enter nobility by marrying their children to the noble clan heirs who support me," spoke the prince as he lamented. "A bunch of rodents who think that they can buy class and history just with money. Well, let us entertain these cockroaches until I become the emperor," he stated firmly with a playful tone. "Afterwards, we will systematically control the clans and use these government officials to expand our influence even among those idiots calling themselves free people." He spoke with a devious tone, almost snickering. Thud. It was right then, a messenger ran towards their gathering, cloaked in dark red garbs. "My lord, there is an emergency," shouted the messenger. The aristocrat who was about to speak got interrupted. His demeanor turned cold as he spoke angrily. You'd better have a proper reason to have barged into this meeting so abruptly. Or else, your head will roll on the ground right here, he warned, his tone filled with resentment. Gulp. The messenger gulped in fear, his body shivering. The news is, he stammered due to the sheer terror he felt. Out with it now, shouted the red-haired aristocrat. The so-called prince, on the other hand, held the glass of a cup over the saucer gently, his eyes cold and piercing as he spoke softly. You may speak. His stern command resonated in the surrounding as the messenger finally mustered the strength to relay the message. He has been found. Who? Asked the prince. This time, the messenger felt the tension in the air, and instead of controlling his voice, the anxiety took over his senses as he blurted out with all his remaining strength. The hero of darkness. Out of nowhere, the cult of Darkborn suddenly announced to the whole Abyss Empire that the hero of darkness had been found. This proclamation alone had shaken the whole populace, regardless of the part of the empire they resided in or the class of society they belonged to. Unlike how the Rocco's empire was a democratic republic nation with the nobility class still existing, the Abyss Empire had monarchy, theocracy, and republic authorities coexisting at the same time. The imperial faction, the cult of Darkborn, and the Senate of the Republic held equal influence over the empire and various aspects of the lifestyle. One could say that every single person's life in the Abyss Empire was somehow related or dependent on at least two of these forces in one way or another. It didn't matter what species you belonged to, you had full freedom to follow whatever form of belief or choices related to your living, such as religious faith or serving under a chosen force, or getting a job under a company, or even a noble house if you desired. There were no restrictions, so all these forces had achieved a perfect harmony in everyone's day-to-day lives. Yet for centuries, one of the key figures was missing from this dynamic, namely the hero of darkness. After the cult's announcement to the masses and all the known authorities, regardless of their factions, the entire population started anticipating the arrival of the hero of darkness. No one knew what he looked like or what his name was. All they knew was that he would be making his first public appearance in front of them tomorrow afternoon. For now, all the institutes, temples, armies, facilities, as well as devotees, were preparing themselves for the grand reveal of the mysterious hero of darkness, their promised champion who was also their apparent savior as per the legends. Tomorrow will be the day of long-awaited return of the cult leader, that all the followers of the cult of Darkborn and people who still believed in God of Darkness, despite being stuck for 3 centuries ago, would experience by all of them. Even the living descendants of those people were no different, since all the stories were passed down to each new generation, and how they were besieged and millions were killed by many empires all at once. People who would murder every living being in the Abyss Empire or enslave them in the name of vengeance for the dead heroes. This was not an act of vengeance but a systematic attack on their empire just because they needed a reason to destroy the Abyss Empire, which was strong enough to rival even the Dragon Empire. They would not get another opportunity like this ever again, and hence they all banded together just so they could plunder everything in the empire for themselves. Mortal greed knew no bounds. Killing 3 billion people just for their personal gains was not below the level they would descend to. The population was made aware of that fact even to this day. Meanwhile, the warrior who were waiting for the arrival of the hero of darkness were no exception to this excitement and anticipation. There was a hierarchy system and even punishment divisions, even in the cult of Darkborn. Everyone powerful in the empire, whether it was people such as saints, prophets, elders, apostles, and devotees, they all contributed and performed necessary rituals to worship the god of darkness as their hearts were filled with utmost joy and vehemency. As for the Doom Templars, the main fighting force of the cult leader was also their supreme leader. Following him were the chapter masters. Below them were the captains of the legion. Each legion had over 100 Doom Templar warriors, hailing from various species and using different combat techniques. And every legion also had at least 2 lieutenants who would personally oversee 50 warriors each. And below them were sergeants who would command 10 warriors as a unit. So every single chapter had 1 chapter master, 10 captains, 20 lieutenants and sergeants, making a total of 1,000 Doom Templars. And there were a total of 40 chapters with their own names, their own specialties, as well as combat styles and weapons of choice. For example, one chapter called Crimson Devourers specializes in blood magic, with its warriors using blood mists, coagulated blood slabs, and even spells as well as magic artifacts to suck the blood from the bodies of their enemies after injuring them. And they fed on the blood of their targets, using it to empower their own strength as well as cover their entire bodies in blood just to give them a terrifying appearance. Meanwhile, another chapter called Obsidian Shadows was filled with trained warriors who used stealth abilities, long-range weapons, and flying jetpacks to ambush their enemies from a long distance or even launch an aerial assault using the darkness of the night. These were covert operatives who not only gathered information about the enemy encampments but also assassinated the leaders of their opposition squads just to break their ranks and sow confusion among their troops. This chapter was one of the silent daggers used by the cult to erase heretical extremists who used the name of God of Darkness to commit atrocities, even before anyone had even heard of their name. Some chapters specialized in siege warfare, while others were experts in extracting civilians from active war zones. They all served the cult with utmost devotion, and many among them had been alive and in active service for more than a century. And below them all were the normal soldiers with garrisons following the rules and laws of the cult. Their armies were comprised of a master-rank warrior leading a unit of at least 100 people. These were the first responders that the cult sent to help people, provide aid such as giving food and resources to those in need after being struck by famine, floods, or any other kind of natural disaster. Their authority was not even questioned by the imperial rules or the Republic's law enforcement soldiers. Although they were always at odds with each other, and the friction between these three different forces was well known to everyone, their deeds deemed them worthy of the common people's respect. And if even they could not handle the situation, such as someone committing a mass sacrifice ritual, it was then the Doom Templars intervened. Thus, the cult of Darkborn still held a considerable influence over the Abyss Empire despite what happened in recent history. And now, with the cult leader arriving, their existence had become a testament of loyalty, strength, devotion, and faith to the whole empire. To common citizens of the Abyss Empire, the hero of darkness was the promised liberator who would free them from this realm and end their 3-century-long confinement as they would return to the real world under his leadership. However, his existence was also detrimental to the two other leading forces, because if he showed up, that meant one thing for certain, that all of them, whether they were part of the cult of Darkborn, the Imperial faction, or the Senate of the Republican democracy, the future was already decided. The unwritten rule and unspoken prophecy must be followed. Everyone must participate in the Great War. As the preparations for the grand ceremony tomorrow were still ongoing, even though the night had come, there were many places and highly luxurious buildings where gatherings of powerful people took place. In one of such grand buildings, a private meeting was being held between members of the Senate of the Republic. Although these were barely 20 people instead of the usual numbers in hundreds, every single one of them was a chief official of a particular institution of the government. All of them held the highest authority over their departments. Yet after yesterday's announcement, they were gathering in secret to discuss matters of utmost concern and priority. In a well-decorated hall, there was a large and long table, and on each side were the chiefs sitting on their respective chairs. Most of them were either anxious or agitated, and their expressions were sullen as if they had seen a ghost. "How do we deal with this, President?" asked a green-scaled reptilian monster. "What do you mean by deal? There is no dealing with this. We will object and denounce the authority of the cult of Darkborn after tomorrow's event," exclaimed an entity with a floating metallic orb as its head. The notable thing about this person was that, although they had a humanoid physiology, the entire body was made of metal, while the floating head wasn't even attached to the body via a neck. There were only 2 eye sockets but no other facial features like a nose or a mouth. This retort by this person wearing a dark red suit was met with agreement as many others, comprised of species Khan had never seen before, nodded their heads. "Scree, Tull, Wilka, Badi," said another being over the other end of the long table who had a head similar to that of an octopus but with 6 straight slanted eyes and a blue aura encapsulating their body. Yes, the vice president is right. We must show our firm disagreement. Otherwise, we will not only appear weak in front of our enemies but also display to our people that we have no backbone. Spoke a female entity with one giant eye in between her head, while her entire body glowed white as the tentacles, similar to that of a jellyfish, waved above her head, going against the gravity and constantly moving as if they were underwater. But instead of acceptance, the environment of the meeting hall suddenly turned chill, and even the breaths became visible to everyone. What nonsense are you all spouting? Just because you've gained such high-ranking positions after a few decades of success doesn't mean that you can go against the will of the people. A grim response came from a 3-meter-tall and slender individual wearing a white coat. He finally turned around and revealed himself to be a 4-armed entity, 2 folding in front of his belly while 2 behind his back. The white coat could barely hide how thin this person was, and finally, the head, akin to that of a man, and the granular gray skin of the President of the Senate of the Republic was revealed. Do you not want to be voted for during the next elections that are coming in 2 years? Or are you all happy to hand over your positions to someone new who isn't controlled by us? Because if we do not partake in this imminent war, that will surely happen. Spoke the President in a sharp and cold tone. Do not forget that currently, we have a perfect coexistence with the support of the Imperial faction. The cult of Darkborn does not get itself involved in the political affairs of the Empire. But if we openly oppose their doctrine and the prophesied participation in the war, the consequences will be irreparable. He said and continued as he sat back on his chair. Remember that the majority of the people in the government and even the law enforcement are still the natives of the Empire who come from the working class, majority of whom still worship the god of darkness in their household and follow the doctrine. And by not joining the Great War, we, as their leaders, will simply tell our own followers that you should be content with hiding and not ever see the outside world, he stated firmly. That you are to live like cowards for the rest of your lives and never truly breathe the air of the real world. That the sacrifice of your ancestors was worth nothing, and the lives that were protected and preserved were destined to be caged inside this realm forever. In a way, it would be akin to telling everyone who voted for us that their opinions and will do not matter to us, and we basically own their lives. And you must do whatever we want, even if it goes against everyone's wishes. That's how the public will perceive our stance if we try to oppose the cult of Darkborn after the hero of darkness arrives, said the President. The room turned silent as most of them started contemplating the harsh truth, that despite their indignation, refusing to join the war would be considered as an utter betrayal of the people who voted for them. And once the political tension rises, forget the cult, their opposition party will basically rile up the citizens and turn the tables to win the next election. The Great War was certain to last for at least the next 5 years. And if they wanted to maintain their authority and keep having their pockets filled via corruption, they had no other choice but to accept this fact that there was no escaping from this war. While the key figures of the Senate were discussing their future plans, the Imperial faction was also having a private meeting, even more secretive than the former group. Within a closed quarter located on the western end of the Imperial Palace, only 8 people were sitting and discussing over a war table. And out of these 8 people, 3 of them were none other than the remaining princes who were at the forefront in the race to become the crown prince. Out of the remaining 5, 1 was the Marquis, 2 were the dukes, and the remaining 2 were the most powerful and rich counts within their faction. The princes should not even be in the same room, given their rivalry, but despite their hostility towards each other, they had gathered due to a greater danger that jeopardized their future as well. So it is decided then. We will publicly declare our support to the cult of Darkborn after the hero of darkness arrives. Spoke the 5th prince, one of those who still managed to live unlike those who had either abolished their claim or been assassinated earlier. Yes. Then after we exit this realm and get settled in the real world, spoke the 9th prince, the youngest among the 3. But before he could complete his sentence, it was the 3rd prince, the oldest and also the one with the lead in the race, who revealed their plan. We will challenge his eligibility to lead as a competent leader to lead them in the Great War.